Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was sent to the world of Akame J Kill. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and also check the description. So let's begin the story. The forest canopy shattered as Naruto Uzumaki crashed through the branches. Orange jumpsuit flashing between shadows and sunlight. Behind him, Sakura's pink hair whipped in the wind as she leapt from tree to tree, her kunai gripped tight between white knuckles. Naruto! On your left! She screamed. Naruto twisted midair, barely avoiding three shuriken that embedded themselves into the bark beside his head with dull thunks. The metal stars quivered with the impact, catching sunlight like deadly mirrors. "ICM, believe it!" he shouted back, his voice carrying over the rustling leaves. His hands flashed through signs so practiced they were nearly muscle memory. Shadow Clone Jutsu. In bursts of white smoke, a dozen Narutos materialized around him, each wearing his signature grin. They scattered through the trees like orange fireworks, drawing fire from their pursuers. Kakashi-sensei's voice crackled through the radio in Naruto's ear. Status report. Sai and I have engaged 6 hostiles on the eastern perimeter. Sakura landed beside Naruto on a thick branch that groaned under their combined weight. "We've got 4 on our tail," she reported, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "They're persistent. Their mission was supposed to be simple. Investigate rumors of strange energy readings near the border of the Land of Fire. Instead, they'd walked straight into an ambush by rogue ninjas who seemed unusually well organized and desperate to protect something in the ruins they'd discovered. What are they after anyway?" Naruto grumbled, peering down at the ancient stone structure half buried in the forest floor below. Moss-covered pillars surrounded a central platform where something glinted with an unnatural blue light. "That weird glowy thing?" Sakura's eyes narrowed as she studied the artifact. "It doesn't look like any chakra source I've ever seen. We should," her words cut off as a kunai with an explosive tag whizzed between them. Naruto tackled Sakura sideways just as the tag detonated, sending splinters and smoke billowing through the air. They tumbled through branches, Naruto's body curled protectively around hers. They hit the forest floor hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Around them, Naruto's shadow clones engaged the pursuing ninjas in a chaos of flashing kunai and shouted jutsu. "You okay, Sakura?" Naruto asked, helping her to her feet. She nodded, wiping dirt from her face. "Thanks. But we need to secure whatever that is." She pointed to the artifact at the center of the ruins. Kakashi-sensei said it was the primary objective. The object pulsed with energy, a jagged crystal shard embedded in an ancient pedestal, carved with symbols either of them recognized. Its blue glow intensified with each pulse, as if responding to the battle raging around it. "I'll grab it." "Cover me." Naruto dashed toward the pedestal while Sakura turned to face their attackers, her fists glowing with focused chakra. One of the enemy ninjas, face hidden behind a black mask with no village identification, shouted in alarm. "Stop him! Don't let him touch the dimensional tear." "Dimensional what now?" Naruto thought, but didn't slow his charge. If these guys wanted it so badly, that was all the more reason to keep it out of their hands. "Naruto, wait!" Sakura called after him. "We don't know what it." Too late. Naruto's fingers closed around the crystal. Immediately, searing pain shot up his arm like lightning. He tried to pull away, but his hand seemed fused to the artifact. The blue glow intensified, bathing the ruins in harsh light that cast everything in sharp, unnatural shadows. "I can't let go!" he shouted, panic rising in his throat. The crystal's pulsing accelerated, syncing eerily with his heartbeat. The enemy ninjas retreated, abandoning their fight. "It's activating! Clear the area!" Kakashi and Sai burst into the clearing, taking in the scene with alarm. "Naruto! Release it now!" Kakashi ordered, Sharingan eye exposed and spinning wildly as he sprinted toward his student. Naruto strained, muscles trembling with effort, but the crystal held him fast. "I'm trying!" The air around the pedestal began to warp, reality itself seeming to fold and twist. A howling sound filled the clearing, like wind rushing through a narrow canyon. "It's destabilizing!" one of the retreating rogues shouted. The fools triggered a dimensional rift. The crystal shattered in Naruto's grasp, fragments hovering impossibly in midair. Where the artifact had been, a swirling vortex of energy expanded outward, crackling with blue lightning. The force of it knocked Naruto backward, his feet leaving the ground. "Naruto!" Sakura screamed, lunging toward him. Her fingertips brushed his as the vortex pulled him in. "Get back!" Naruto shouted, seeing the vortex expanding toward her. With his free hand, he formed a Rasengan and slammed it into the ground, the force propelling Sakura away from the growing rift. The last thing he saw was Sakura's horrified face, Kakashi running toward them both, and sighing creatures attempting to reach him. Then the vortex collapsed around him, and darkness swallowed everything. Pain greeted Naruto's return to consciousness, a dull throb behind his eyes and an ache that seemed to permeate every muscle. Birds chirped somewhere nearby, their songs unfamiliar. The air smelled different too, heavier, with traces of smoke and unfamiliar vegetation. Sakura? He mumbled, forcing his eyes open. Kakashi-sensei? Instead of his teammates, a canopy of strange trees met his gaze. The leaves were broader than any in the forest near Konoha, and the light filtering through them had an odd quality, redder somehow. Naruto sat up, groaning as his body protested. He was in a small clearing, the ground covered with thick, purple-tinged grass. No sign of the ruins, the pedestal, or the crystal. No sign of his team. "Hello?" he called, voice echoing through unfamiliar trees. Only birdsong answered. Unease settled in his stomach like a cold stone. Something was very wrong. The air felt different against his skin. Even the way sunlight filtered through the leaves seemed alien. Alright, first things first. Naruto shakily stood, taking inventory. His weapons pouch was still secure, kunai and shuriken accounted for. His headband sat firmly in place. Physically, he seemed unharmed aside from some bruises and scratches. Let's try to figure out where I am. He formed the familiar hand signs. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Instead of the usual puff of smoke and multiple copies, Naruto felt his chakra surge and then twist unnaturally. A single clone appeared beside him, looking as confused as he felt, before dissolving almost immediately. What the? Naruto tried again, focusing harder. This time, 3 clones materialized, but they looked wrong, almost transparent, and they dissipated after a few seconds. My chakra feels weird. Like it's fighting against me. He needed to find civilization, figure out where he was, and how to get back to his team. Leaping into the trees, Naruto noticed immediately that his jumps weren't carrying him as far, and maintaining chakra in his feet to stick to branches required intense concentration. After an hour of cautious travel, Naruto smelled smoke, not forest fire smoke, but cooking fires. Following the scent, he soon heard voices and slowed his approach. Through the trees, a small village came into view. The architecture was nothing like any he'd seen in the land of fire or neighboring nations. The buildings were constructed of dark wood with sharply pitched roofs, arranged around a central square. The people looked normal enough, civilians going about their daily business, but their clothing was strange. No headbands or obvious ninja gear in sight. Naruto was considering how to approach when a commotion in the village square caught his attention. A group of men in militaristic uniforms had surrounded a fruit vendor's stall. Their armor gleamed in the sunlight, polished steel with insignias Naruto didn't recognize. The leader, a tall man with a cruel smirk, was helping himself to the vendor's wares while 2 others held the protesting merchant. "Imperial tax, old man," the leader drawled, biting into an apple with exaggerated pleasure. "You should be honored to contribute to the capital's prosperity. I paid my taxes last week." The old vendor protested, struggling against his captors. "This is robbery." The leader's face darkened. "Careful now. That sounds dangerously close to sedition." His hand moved to the sword at his hip. "The Empire doesn't tolerate traitors." Around the square, villagers watched with fear in their eyes, but no one interfered. The resignation on their faces told Naruto this wasn't an uncommon occurrence. Something in Naruto's chest tightened. The bullying, the fear, it was too familiar, recalling painful memories of his own childhood. Before he could think better of it, he leapt from his hiding place, landing with practiced ease in the center of the square. "Hey!" he shouted, pointing dramatically at the soldiers. "Why don't you pick on someone your own size?" All eyes turned to him, the soldiers with annoyed surprise, the villagers with horror. The leader recovered quickly, eyeing Naruto's orange jumpsuit with amusement. "What's this? A circus performer?" His men chuckled on cue. "Run along, boy, before you get hurt." Naruto stood his ground, summoning his most intimidating glare. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki, ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village. And I don't like bullies." The soldiers exchanged confused glances. "Hidden Leaf? Never heard of it," the leader said, advancing on Naruto. "But I don't care if you're from the ends of the earth. No one interferes with imperial business." They drew their swords in unison, steel hissing against scabbards. The villagers scattered, ducking into doorways and behind stalls. The old vendor took advantage of the distraction to break free and run. Naruto sized up his opponents. 6 soldiers, armed but likely not trained for anything beyond intimidating civilians. In normal circumstances, they wouldn't pose much threat. but with his chakra behaving unpredictably. Last chance to walk away, kid, the leader warned. Naruto answered with action, forming hand signs. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. This time, his chakra responded better. Perhaps due to the adrenaline, and 20 clones popped into existence around the square. Still fewer than he'd intended, and the effort left him momentarily lightheaded, but the effect on the soldiers was instantaneous. What sorcery is this? One gasped, sword wavering. Imperial arms? Another suggested, eyes wide. The leader recovered faster than his men. Don't just stand there. Attack! The clones rushed forward. Naruto quickly discovered that while his chakra control was compromised, his taijutsu remained effective. His clones engaged the soldiers with punches, kicks, and acrobatic maneuvers that had the men swinging wildly at afterimages. The leader, more skilled than his subordinates, managed to dispel 3 clones before the real Naruto confronted him. Steel flashed as the man thrust his sword forward in a precise strike. Naruto dodged, feeling the blade whisper past his ear. He countered with a sweeping kick that the soldier jumped over, followed by an uppercut that connected solidly with the man's jaw. The leader staggered backward, spitting blood. You'll pay for that, he snarled, wiping his mouth. No one strikes an imperial officer and lives, he signaled to his men, who regrouped around him. Naruto's remaining clones formed a defensive perimeter, but he could feel them draining his chakra at an alarming rate. The soldiers charged as one. Naruto focused his remaining chakra, hoping his signature technique would work in this strange place. Rasengan! He shouted, a sphere of swirling energy forming in his palm, smaller than usual, but still potent. The soldiers faltered at the sight of the glowing orb. Naruto didn't wait for them to recover. He dashed forward, driving the Rasengan into the ground at their feet. The explosion sent dirt, cobblestones, and soldiers flying in all directions. When the dust settled, the imperial men lay scattered around the square, groaning but alive. Naruto stood in the center, panting heavily. The effort had drained him far more than it should have. Slowly, villagers emerged from hiding. They stared at Naruto with expressions ranging from fear to awe. You stood up to the Imperial Guard, an elderly woman whispered. No one does that. They were bullying you, Naruto said simply, as if that explained everything. The old fruit vendor approached cautiously. Thank you, young man, but you should leave quickly. They'll return with reinforcements. Naruto nodded, suddenly aware of how exposed he was. He needed information, needed to understand this world and how to get home. Which way to the nearest big city? The vendor pointed eastward. The capital lies that way, half a day's journey. But I wouldn't recommend, thanks. Naruto cut him off with a grin. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Before anyone could protest further, he dashed toward the forest edge. As he leapt into the trees, movement in his peripheral vision caught his attention, a flash of black and red on a distant rooftop. When he turned to look, whatever it was had vanished. Shrugging it off, Naruto continued eastward, unaware of the golden eyes that tracked his movement from the shadows. Eyes belonging to a girl with jet black hair, and a blade that had tasted the blood of 1,000 imperial soldiers. She watched the strange boy with the orange clothes and unusual powers disappear into the forest, then silently slipped away. Night Raid would be very interested to hear about this development. Somewhere in the capital, a young scientist burst into a luxurious office, excitement overriding protocol. Minister! The dimensional monitors detected a massive energy spike in the western forest. Something, or someone, came through. Behind an enormous desk piled with delicacies, a grotesquely fat man paused, fork halfway to his mouth. Prime Minister Honest's eyes gleamed with interest as he set down his utensil and dabbed his lips with a silk napkin. Well, he said, a smile spreading across his bloated face. After all our experiments, it seems we've finally succeeded. He chuckled, the sound like oil bubbling. Find whatever came through. I want it brought to me, intact if possible. As the scientist hurried away, Honest returned to his meal, humming contentedly. New weapons were always welcome in the Empire's arsenal, especially ones that fell from other worlds. Dawn broke over the horizon as Naruto crested the final hill. The capital sprawled before him, a vast expanse of stone and timber that dwarfed even the hidden leaf. Morning light glinted off ornate spires and grand edifices that jutted skyward like the teeth of some massive beast. Smoke rose from countless chimneys, blurring into the hazy sky. Naruto whistled low, shielding his eyes from the rising sun. Now that's a city, believe it! His journey from the village had been uneventful. The strange forest had gradually thinned, giving way to farmland, then to the packed dirt of the main road. All night, he'd puzzled over his situation, the artifact, the dimensional rift, his erratic chakra. Nothing made sense. But if answers existed anywhere in this bizarre world, they'd be in that massive city. The road widened as he approached, joining with others to form a steady stream of travelers entering the capital. Farmers hauled carts piled high with produce. Merchants led donkeys laden with goods. Families trudged alongside, faces grim with determination. "Hey," Naruto called to a weathered farmer guiding a rickety wagon. "What can you tell me about this place?" The man eyed Naruto's bright orange jumpsuit with suspicion before answering. "First time in the capital, eh? Keep your head down, and your mouth shut if you want to survive." "That bad, huh?" The farmer spat in the dust. "The rich get fat while the rest of us starve. That's the way of the empire." He flicked his reins, urging his horse forward, conversation clearly over. Naruto frowned, watching him go. The closer they got to the city, the more soldiers appeared. Armored men patrolling in tight formations, eyes scanning the crowds with predatory vigilance. The city gates loomed overhead, massive iron-banded wooden doors flung open to admit the morning traffic. Guards checked papers, collected tolls, and occasionally pulled people aside for special inspection. Those unfortunate enough to be selected emerged with lighter purses, or not at all. Naruto hung back, observing. His bright clothing would draw attention, and he had neither papers nor money for bribes. Time for a little ninja ingenuity. When a particularly large merchant caravan approached, creating confusion at the checkpoint, Naruto made his move. Chakra gathered at his feet, sluggish but responsive enough, and he darted up the wall beside the gate in a blur of orange. The guards below never looked up as he flipped over the battlements and dropped into a narrow alley on the other side. "Still got it," he grinned, brushing dust from his palms. The capital was a study in contrasts. Naruto's wanderings first took him through narrow, stinking streets where sewage ran in open gutters and children with hollow eyes begged for crusts of bread. Buildings leaned against each other like drunks, blocking most of the sunlight. The faces around him were haggard, hopeless, people existing rather than living. "This is worse than the poorest parts of Konoha," Naruto muttered, tossing a child an apple he'd swiped from an inattentive vendor. But as he pressed deeper into the city, the streets widened. Sewage disappeared beneath cobblestones. Buildings straightened and gained ornamental facades. And then, abruptly, Naruto found himself in another world entirely. The wealthy district exploded with color and light. Gardens burst with exotic flowers behind gilded fences. Fountains sprayed crystal water into perfumed air. Ladies in impossible dresses floated past on the arms of men wearing more wealth than entire families in the outer districts would see in a lifetime. Guards stood at every corner, their polished armor reflecting the midday sun like mirrors. Naruto stood slack-jawed at the boundary between worlds. A few hundred yards separated devastating poverty from obscene wealth, with nothing but invisible social barriers keeping them apart. It wasn't just unfair, it was deliberate. "Bastards," he growled, earning glares from passing nobles. "They know exactly what they're doing." A scream cut through his thoughts. Down a side street, a woman wrestled with a hooded figure who had grabbed her ornate purse. "Thief!" she shrieked. "Guards! Guards!" Without thinking, Naruto sprang into action. He crossed the distance in 3 bounds, intercepting the fleeing thief with a flying tackle. They tumbled to the cobblestones in a tangle of limbs. "Gotcha!" Naruto crowed, pinning the struggling figure. "Get off me, you idiot!" The thief's hood fell back, revealing a young woman with sharp features and intelligent eyes. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I understand you're stealing," Naruto shot back. Approaching footsteps warned of the guard's arrival. The thief's eyes widened with genuine fear. "Please," she whispered urgently. "They'll kill me." Something in her voice gave Naruto pause. Before he could decide, armored men surrounded them, spears leveled. "Well done, citizen," one guard said, hauling the thief roughly to her feet. "Lady Abeline will be pleased to have her property returned." The noblewoman pushed through the circle of guards, snatching her purse back. She was beautiful in a cold, porcelain way, with elaborately styled hair and a dress that could feed a family for years. "Filthy street rat," she hissed at the thief, then turned a practiced smile on Naruto. "You have my thanks, young man. What is your name?" "Naruto Uzumaki," he answered automatically, still watching the thief. The terror in her eyes seemed disproportionate to the crime. "A strange name. You're not from the capital, are you?" Lady Abeline studied him with newfound interest. "Such unusual clothing. And those whisker marks, fascinating. What'll happen to her?" Naruto nodded toward the thief. The noblewoman waved dismissively. "Oh, the usual. Public execution tomorrow. We must discourage the rabble from thinking they can take what isn't theirs." She smiled sweetly. "You should attend. Afterward, perhaps you could visit my estate. I'd like to properly thank you for your assistance. Naruto's stomach twisted. Execution? For a purse? Of course. How else will they learn? She turned to leave. Until tomorrow, Naruto Uzumaki. As the guards dragged the thief away, she locked eyes with Naruto. There was no hatred there, only disappointment. As if he'd failed some test he didn't know he was taking. Naruto spent the afternoon gathering information, eavesdropping on conversations, and trying to make sense of this world. The empire, he learned, was ruled by a child emperor but truly controlled by the prime minister, a man universally feared and whispered about. Corruption ran through every level of government. The strong preyed on the weak as a matter of course, and somewhere in the wilderness, rebels called the Revolutionary Army fought to overthrow the regime. Urban legends spoke of their elite assassination squad, Night Raid, that struck from the shadows, killing corrupt officials and leaving calling cards on the bodies. As daylight faded, Naruto found himself in a dingy tavern in the transitional zone between poor and wealthy districts. The establishment catered to merchants and guards on their way up the social ladder, people with enough money to drink away their complicity in the system. Telling you, they're not human, a red-faced guard was saying to his companions. The way they move. The weapons they wield. No ordinary assassins could have done what they did to Lord Choyuri. Night Raid, another whispered, glancing nervously around. They say their leader has a mechanical arm that can crush a man's skull like an egg. I heard one of them turns into a beast, with claws that can tear through steel. Added a third, already deep in his cups. Naruto sipped his water, ears perked. These Night Raid people sounded a bit like ANBU, elite operatives working from the shadows. But assassins? His ninja code rebelled at the thought. You're not from around here, are you? The voice startled him. A blonde woman had appeared beside his table, golden eyes sparkling with mischief. Her attire was minimal, accentuating curves that would have given Jiraiya a nosebleed. But it was her presence that struck Naruto most. She moved with the silent confidence of a predator. That obvious, huh? Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. She slid into the chair opposite him, grinning. The orange jumpsuit is a giveaway. But mostly it's how you talk. Your accent is strange. She leaned forward conspiratorially. I'm Leon, by the way. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto, she repeated, testing the name. Unusual. I like it. Her gaze traveled over his face, lingering on his whisker marks. Heard you had an interesting morning. Not many people would tackle a thief to save a noble's purse. Naruto stiffened. You were watching me? Leon's smile widened. I make it my business to know what happens in the city. She downed his untouched sake in one gulp, especially when it involves strangers with strange abilities. The tavern suddenly seemed quieter, as if the background noise had been muted. Naruto's hand inched toward his kunai pouch. What do you want? To satisfy my curiosity. Leon stood, stretching languidly. And maybe to offer you a chance to make up for this morning's mistake. Mistake? The girl you helped capture? She wasn't stealing that purse for herself. Leon tossed coins on the table. She was retrieving evidence. Lady Abeline traffics children from the outer districts, sells them to nobles with particular tastes. I slid down Naruto's spine. You're lying. See for yourself. Leon started toward the door. Abeline is hosting a special gathering tonight. Very exclusive, very secret. I can get us in. Naruto hesitated only a moment before following her into the deepening twilight. Leon led him through a labyrinth of alleys and back streets, always moving with purpose. They skirted guard patrols with ease, Leon somehow knowing their routes in advance. She barely spoke, and Naruto found himself studying her movements. The way she blended with shadows, how she seemed to sense danger before it appeared. You're not just some random citizen, he said finally as they crouched beneath a window, listening to a guard rotation change. Leon's smile flashed white in the darkness. Never claimed to be. They scaled the garden wall, dropping silently into manicured grounds. Lady Abeline's estate sprawled before them, windows glowing with warm light. Music drifted from an open terrace where elegantly dressed guests mingled. How exactly are we getting in? Naruto whispered. Leon produced a servant's uniform from a hidden pack. You're not too conspicuous. I'll go in and confirm the targets. You'll wait here until I signal. She held up a hand when he started to protest. I need to know if you're trustworthy before I let you any deeper into this. Naruto crossed his arms. How do I know I can trust you? Leon's playful demeanor vanished, replaced by cold determination. You don't. But those children don't have time for us to build rapport. So either wait here or go back to wherever you came from. She disappeared into the shadows before he could respond, leaving Naruto alone with his thoughts. The Leon who had approached him in the tavern, flirtatious and carefree, seemed a lifetime removed from this focused operative. Minutes stretched into an hour. Guests continued to arrive, each more lavishly dressed than the last. Naruto was considering storming the mansion himself when a flash of movement caught his eye. Leon beckoned from a side entrance, her expression grim. "It's worse than we thought," she whispered when he reached her. 12 children, youngest can't be more than 8. They're being kept in a cellar beneath the kitchens. The auction starts at midnight. Fury billowed in Naruto's chest, hot and familiar. "What's the plan?" Leon studied him, assessing. "You really want to help?" "I'm not leaving those kids here," she nodded once. "We free them and get them out through the service tunnels. But there's a complication. 5 imperial guards, full armor, stationed outside the cellar, plus Abeline's personal security. Not a problem." Naruto formed a familiar hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 5 clones popped into existence around him, each grinning with fierce determination. The effort made him dizzy. His chakra still wasn't right, but they held their form. Leon's eyes widened. "What in the, how did you?" "I'll explain later," Naruto and his clones said in unison. "Just tell us where to go." The operation went smoothly at first. Leon led 2 clones to create a distraction on the mansion's east side, while Naruto and the remaining 3 infiltrated through the kitchens. Servants scattered at their appearance, more afraid of being associated with intruders than concerned about stopping them. They found the cellar door guarded exactly as Leon had described. Naruto's clones engaged the guards while he and Leon slipped past in the confusion, down stone steps into dank darkness. The stench hit them first, unwashed bodies, fear, and despair. As their eyes adjusted, shapes materialized in the gloom. Cages lined the walls, each containing a small, huddled form. Childlike eyes gleamed in the dim light, watching them with wary hope. "It's okay," Leon whispered, moving from cage to cage. "We're getting you out of here." Naruto stood frozen, rage boiling through his veins. This wasn't the abstract corruption he'd heard about all day. This was evil, pure and deliberate. "Naruto! Focus!" Leon's sharp command snapped him back. "Help me with these locks." He channeled his anger into action, smashing locks with kunai driven by chakra-enhanced strength. One by one, the children emerged, shaking and silent. "This way," Leon urged, guiding them toward a narrow passage revealed behind a false wine rack. "This leads to the outer grounds. My associates are waiting." The tunnel was low and cramped, forcing them to move in single file. Naruto took the rear, a clone at the front with Leon. They'd gone perhaps 50 yards when shouts echoed behind them. "They've found the guards," Leon hissed. "Hurry!" The children stumbled forward, terror giving them speed. Naruto glanced back to see torchlight bobbing in the darkness. "Get them out," he told Leon. "I'll hold them off." She caught his arm. "They'll kill you." Naruto grinned, chakra already gathering in his palm. "I'd like to see them try." Later, Naruto would recall the fight in fragments. The shock on the guards' faces as his Rasengan shredded through their formation. The sound of stone cracking as he collapsed the tunnel behind him. The burn in his lungs as he fought his way up and out through a side passage. He emerged into the garden to find chaos. Alarms blared throughout the estate. Guards rushed in all directions, shouting contradictory orders. And above it all, Lady Abeline's furious screams as her merchandise escaped into the night. Naruto moved from shadow to shadow, avoiding patrols. His chakra reserves were dangerously low. Maintaining the clones during combat had drained him more thoroughly than he'd expected. He needed to find Leon and the children, make sure they'd gotten away safely. A hand closed around his wrist, yanking him into a dense hedge. "This way," Leon whispered. Quickly, they sprinted across the grounds, scaled the wall, and disappeared into the warren of alleys beyond. Leon led him through a dizzying series of turns, doubling back and crossing their own trail multiple times before finally stopping in an abandoned warehouse near the city's edge. Naruto bent double, hands on knees, breathing hard. "The kids? Safe," Leon assured him. "My people have them." "Your people?" Naruto straightened, studying her. "Night raid, right?" Leon's eyebrows rose. "Sharp guess. Not really. Elite fighters working against the Empire, appearing and disappearing like ghosts? Wasn't hard to figure out." She crossed her arms, golden eyes gleaming in the moonlight filtering through broken windows. "And now that you know, what will you do?" "Depends on what happens to those kids. They'll be taken to a Revolutionary Army outpost, given medical treatment, reunited with families when possible." Leon's voice softened. "We're not monsters, despite what Imperial propaganda says." Naruto nodded slowly. "And Lady Abeline?" She'll face justice. Tonight. Leon's expression hardened. Her crimes have earned her a place on our list. You're going to kill her. It wasn't a question, but Leon answered anyway. Yes. Naruto looked away. Death was part of the ninja world. He'd seen comrades fall, enemies die by his hand. But assassination had always seemed dishonorable, even necessary targets taken with regret rather than righteousness. What about the evidence? He asked finally. The proof of her crimes? Couldn't that be taken to the authorities? Leon's laugh was bitter. What authorities? The imperial police that guard her mansion? The judges she bribes? The ministers she entertains? She stepped closer. The corruption isn't a flaw in the system, Naruto. It is the system. The truth of her words resonated with what he'd seen today. The stark division between rich and poor, the casual cruelty, the hopelessness in people's eyes. I understand you have reservations, Leon continued. But I've seen what you can do. Those abilities, they could make a difference here. I can't just join an assassination squad. That's not my ninja way. Then don't think of us as assassins. Think of us as surgeons, cutting out disease to save the body. She held out her hand. At least meet the others before you decide. We have resources, information. If you're looking for something in this world, or a way back to wherever you came from, we might be able to help. Naruto stared at her outstretched hand. His first priority should be finding a way home, back to Sakura and Kakashi and the others. But could he really turn his back on the suffering he'd witnessed? One meeting, he agreed, clasping her hand. No promises after that. Leon's grin returned, fierce and genuine. Fair enough. Follow me, Whisker Face. Dawn was breaking when they finally reached their destination, a cliff face deep in the forest surrounding the capital. Leon led him to what appeared to be a solid rock wall, then pressed her palm against a specific point. Stones slid away, revealing a hidden passage. Welcome to home sweet home, she said as they entered a cavernous space that opened into what looked like an underground fortress. Try not to get killed in the first 5 minutes. Naruto sensed the attack before he saw it, killing intent spiking sharply from his left. He dropped into a defensive crouch as a blade whistled through the air where his head had been an instant before. A girl stood before him, red eyes cold and assessing. Her black hair flowed like midnight around a face beautiful in its complete detachment. The katana in her hands gleamed eagerly, as if alive and thirsting. Akame! Stand down! Leon barked. He's with me. You brought a stranger to our base. Akame's voice was soft but unyielding. Protocol demands elimination. He helped with the Abilene operation. Leon moved between them. And he's got abilities we've never seen before. The boss will want to talk to him. The standoff stretched, tension crackling in the air. Naruto remained perfectly still, recognizing the predator before him. This girl, she reminded him of Sasuke at his coldest, a weapon honed to lethal perfection. Guys? Maybe we could not kill the new person right away. Just a thought. The new voice came from a young man with brown hair and earnest green eyes who had appeared at the top of a nearby staircase. Behind him, others gathered, a short girl with pink hair and what looked like massive firearms, a green-haired youth twirling wire between his fingers, a muscular man with heart-shaped armor, and a curvaceous woman with purple hair. Leon's right, Akame, the purple-haired woman said, descending the stairs with graceful authority. An eye patch covered one eye, and her right arm appeared mechanical, a complex prosthetic unlike anything Naruto had seen. Stand down. Akame hesitated a moment longer before sheathing her sword in one fluid motion. Your responsibility, she told Leon, then vanished deeper into the hideout. Don't take it personally, Leon whispered to Naruto. She's like that with everyone at first. The woman with the eye patch approached, studying Naruto with clinical interest. So you're the orange phenomenon my scouts have been reporting. I'm Negenda, leader of Night Raid. She extended her mechanical hand. Welcome to our humble abode. Naruto accepted the handshake cautiously. Naruto Uzumaki. I'm, not from around here. A snort came from the pink-haired girl. No shit. You look like someone threw up a pumpkin. Mine, Negenda warned, manners. The brown-haired boy bounded down the stairs, extending his hand with genuine enthusiasm. I'm Tatsumi. Leon says you helped save those kids? That's awesome. One by one, the others introduced themselves. Mine still suspicious. Lubbock openly curious. Bullet with formal courtesy. Shio with gentle distraction. You must have questions, Negenda said when the introductions finished. As do we. Let's talk somewhere more comfortable. As they moved deeper into the hideout, Naruto felt eyes on his back. Turning, he caught Akame watching from the shadows, her gaze inscrutable. Welcome to Night Raid, he thought grimly. Konoha seems a million miles away. Morning light filtered through hidden skylights, casting golden shafts through the underground chamber. Naruto sat cross-legged on a cushion, surrounded by the complete assembly of Night Raid. The air hummed with tension, thick enough to slice with Akame's blade. So, Negenda began, smoke curling from her cigarette like a restless serpent. You claim to be from another world entirely. Naruto nodded, the weight of 7 pairs of skeptical eyes pressing down on him. The Hidden Leaf Village, in the Land of Fire. I'm a ninja, a shinobi, and you expect us to believe that? Mine scoffed, tossing her pink pigtails. Her eyes glittered with suspicion, sharp as the massive rifle propped against her chair. Sounds like the ravings of a lunatic, says the girl whose weapon can shoot through mountains. Leon countered with a smirk, lounging against a nearby pillar. Naruto's eyes widened. It can do what now? Negenda leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees, mechanical fingers laced with flesh ones. Before we debate the credibility of dimensional travel, perhaps we should educate our guest on the realities of this world, specifically about imperial arms. Imperial arms? Naruto repeated, the foreign term rolling awkwardly off his tongue. Taigu, Akame corrected from her position against the far wall, crimson eyes never leaving Naruto's face. The katana remained at her side, its sheath gleaming with a hungry luster. Negenda nodded. Ancient weapons of immense power, created centuries ago from rare materials and danger beasts. Only 48 were ever made, each with unique abilities that far exceed conventional weaponry. Like Pumpkin here, mine interjected, lovingly stroking her rifle. The more danger I'm in, the more destructive its power becomes. Or Lionel, Leon added, holding up a belt with a lion-shaped buckle. Enhances my physical abilities and gives me beast-like senses. One by one, they revealed their treasures. Lubbock's cross-tail wires that could slice through steel or form impenetrable barriers. Bullets in Curcio armor that rendered him nearly invincible. Shield's massive scissors that could sever anything. And the most chilling of all, Akame's Murasame, which killed with a single cut. One nick, Tatsumi whispered, green eyes wide with remembered horror, and the poison spreads instantly. No cure. The revelation sent a cold shiver down Naruto's spine. These weren't just weapons. They were embodiments of death itself, crafted specifically for killing. And the Empire has these too? He asked, mind racing through tactical implications. Some of the most powerful are in their possession, Negenda confirmed, tapping ash from her cigarette. Generalist Death wields the demon's extract, giving her control over ice. The minister's son possesses a taiga that manipulates his victims like puppets. Naruto absorbed this in silence, comparing these imperial arms to the forbidden jutsu of his world. Both represented immense power. Both could be used for great evil, and both required extraordinary skill to master. So, Negenda fixed him with her piercing gaze. Now that you understand what we're up against, tell us how you arrived in our world. Naruto recounted his tale. The mission, the artifact, the dimensional rift that had swallowed him. As he spoke, the skepticism on some faces gradually gave way to reluctant belief. Only Akame remained unmoved, her expression carved from marble. When he finished, silence descended upon the chamber, broken only by the soft crackle of torches. If what you say is true, Negenda finally spoke, your abilities could prove invaluable to our cause. Whoa, hold on, Naruto raised his hands. I never said I was joining your assassination squad. The word hung in the air like a thrown kunai. You have a problem with killing? Mine's voice dripped with disdain. Then you're useless to us. I've killed before, Naruto retorted, memories of past battles flashing behind his eyes. But in self-defense, or to protect others. Assassination is different. It's not the ninja way I was taught. Your way doesn't apply here. Akame spoke suddenly, her voice soft yet cutting. This isn't your world, and your rules are meaningless against the Empire's cruelty. Akame, Negenda cautioned, then turned back to Naruto. But she's not entirely wrong. Perhaps it would help if you understood exactly why we do what we do. She extinguished her cigarette and rose, crossing to a massive map of the Empire pinned to the far wall. The corruption doesn't begin and end with nobles like Abeline. It stems from the highest levels, from Prime Minister Honest himself. Her fingers trace the outline of the Imperial Palace. He manipulates the young emperor, encourages his worst impulses, and has systematically eliminated anyone who might oppose him. Under his rule, entire villages have been wiped out. Children are kidnapped and sold. Taxation has driven farmers to starvation. We've tried other methods, Tatsumi added, his youthful face suddenly looking years older. My friends and I came to the capital seeking our fortune, thinking we could work within the system. They were tortured to death for sport by a noble family. The raw pain in his voice struck Naruto like a physical blow. The Revolutionary Army works to build a better future, Negenda continued, but some evils are too immediate, too entrenched to wait for political change. That's why Night Raid exists, to cut out the disease before it spreads further. Naruto closed his eyes, conflicting principles warring within him. The faces of the village children flashed through his mind, then the caged children from Abeline's cellar. He thought of Iruka-sensei's teachings about the will of fire, about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. I understand your cause, he said finally, opening his eyes. And I'll help you save people. But I need to find a way back to my world, and I won't compromise everything I believe in along the way. Meaning? Negenda pressed. I'll fight with you, but I'll find my own path. Non-lethal when possible. A derisive snort from mine. A contemplative hum from Bullet. A barely perceptible narrowing of Akame's eyes. Bold words, Leon grinned, but can you back them up? Why don't we see what our interdimensional friend can do? Negenda considered this, then nodded. Yes. A demonstration seems appropriate. The training ground behind the hideout thrummed with anticipation. Stone pillars rose from parched earth, targets were mounted on distant trees, and weapons racks gleamed in the midday sun. Night Raid formed a loose semicircle around Naruto, curious and skeptical in equal measure. Don't hold back, Negenda instructed from her perch on a boulder. Show us what a shinobi can do. Naruto grinned, feeling a familiar rush of adrenaline. His chakra still felt strange in this world, like water flowing through a kinked hose, but he'd been adapting. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen perfect copies burst into existence around him in puffs of white smoke. Gasps erupted from the onlookers. Even Akame's impassive mask slipped for a fraction of a second. They're solid! Tatsumi exclaimed, poking one clone who swatted his hand away irritably. Not just illusions, Lubbock murmured, glasses reflecting the sunlight. Actual physical duplicates. That's nothing, all 13 Narutos announced in unison. They exploded into action. Clones ricocheted off pillars, hurled kunai with pinpoint accuracy, and engaged in a dizzying display of taijutsu that left afterimages in the observer's vision. Two clones combined to create a Rasengan, the swirling blue sphere humming with barely contained energy. Rasengan! The real Naruto shouted, driving the technique into a stone pillar. The impact was cataclysmic. Stone shattered, dust billowed, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. When the debris settled, a perfect spiral pattern had been drilled through the solid rock, edges smooth as glass. Silence descended on the training ground. Even mine looked begrudgingly impressed. That's not all, Naruto continued, dispelling his clones with a thought. In my world I can tap into nature energy for Sage Mode, and I have another power source. He hesitated, not yet ready to explain the nine tails. A solid offensive capability, Negenda assessed, eyes calculating. And your tactical flexibility with those clones is impressive. But how's your defensive game? Before Naruto could respond, Lubbock's wires whipped toward him from multiple angles. Naruto flipped backward, kunai flashing to deflect the metallic threads. No sooner had he landed than Leon lunged, her features transformed to something feline and feral, claws raking where his head had been a moment before. The impromptu spar escalated as each Night Raid member tested him in turn. Naruto dodged Mine's precision shots, parried Bullet's devastating strikes, and evaded Shio's lethal scissors. Only Akame held back, watching with analytical intensity. 5 minutes in, sweat dripping from his brow, Naruto found himself surrounded again. His chakra reserves were depleting faster than normal, his muscles burning with exertion. Enough, Negenda called, raising her mechanical arm. I think we've seen sufficient evidence of your capabilities. Naruto bent forward, hands on knees, chest heaving. So, did I pass? A rare smile cracked Negenda's stern facade. You'll do, Naruto Uzumaki. You'll do. Sunset painted the hideout in shades of crimson and gold. After a meal shared in cautious camaraderie, Naruto found himself on the cliff edge overlooking the capital. The distant city twinkled with lamplight, beautiful from afar, its corruption hidden by darkness and distance. Footsteps approached, light, deliberate, unmistakable. Come to finish your assessment, Akame? He asked without turning. She moved beside him, her presence cool and contained as mountain water. The dying sun cast half her face in shadow, the other in fiery light. You fight well, she said simply, but you hesitate. Her crimson eyes reflected the sunset, pools of blood on snow. In our world, hesitation means death, yours or someone you're trying to protect. In my world, rushing to kill means becoming the very thing you're fighting against, Naruto countered. Her fingers brushed Murasame's hilt, an unconscious gesture. This blade has tasted the blood of hundreds. Each death was necessary. Each removed a cancer from the Empire, and you never doubt? Naruto turned to face her fully. Never wonder if there could have been another way? Something flickered behind her eyes, so brief he might have imagined it. Doubt costs lives. So does certainty, he replied softly. They stood in silence, two killers with vastly different philosophies, united only by their desire to protect. Negenda believes your abilities will be valuable, Akame finally said. I reserve judgment. Fair enough, Naruto nodded. I'll earn your trust eventually. Believe it. The ghost of something that might have been amusement touched her lips. We'll see. Footsteps interrupted their standoff. Tatsumi, approaching at a run, face flushed with excitement. There you are. Negenda's called an emergency meeting. We've got a mission. The war room buzzed with focused energy as Negenda unrolled a detailed map across the central table. Colored markers indicated imperial positions, supply routes, and potential targets. Our sources have confirmed it, she announced, tapping a winding road that led north from the capital. 2 days from now, a heavily guarded military convoy will transport a recovered imperial arms to the northern fortress. Which one? Leon asked, leaning forward eagerly. Spectator, Negenda replied. A tiger with the ability to see through any deception, revealing hidden enemies and exposing falsehoods. Lubbock whistled. In the Empire's hands, that would be devastating for our intelligence network. Precisely why we must intercept it. Negenda's finger traced the planned route. The convoy will pass through this mountain pass. Perfect terrain for an ambush. Security detail? Bullet inquired, professional soldiers' instincts surfacing. 30 elite Imperial guards led by Captain Ogre's replacement. Negenda's expression darkened. And possibly one of the new Special Forces unit, the Jaegers. Tension rippled through the room. Even Naruto, new as he was, could sense the shift. What are Jaegers? He asked. The Empire's answer to Night Raid, mine replied grimly. Tiger users assembled specifically to hunt us down. This mission is high risk, Negenda continued, but the reward justifies it. Failure means allowing the Empire to gain a powerful weapon against us. Her gaze swept the room, settling finally on Naruto. Are you in? The question hung in the air between them. This would be his first real mission with Night Raid, his first step down a path very different from the one he'd walked in Konoha. Naruto thought of the artifact that had brought him here, wondering if the Empire might have information about interdimensional travel. He thought of the children they'd rescued, of the countless others suffering under Imperial rule. He thought of his ninja way, and whether it could survive in this brutal world. I'm in, he declared, meeting each pair of eyes in turn. But I do things my way. Akame's silent stare challenged him, a wordless question. When the moment comes, will you hesitate? Naruto had no answer. Not yet. But as the group dispersed to prepare, one thing became clear. This mission would test more than his fighting skills. It would test the very core of his beliefs, the weight of killing, the burden of mercy, the razor's edge between justice and vengeance. A ninja's resolve was about to face its greatest trial yet. Moonlight spilled across the forest canopy, turning leaves to silver as Naruto crouched beside Akame on a moss-covered boulder. Below them, the mountain pass cut a narrow ribbon through dense woodland, a perfect bottleneck for the approaching convoy. Night cloaked the forest in shifting shadows, punctuated by the calls of unfamiliar nocturnal creatures. A chill wind whispered through the branches, carrying the scent of pine and distant wood smoke. They're late, Naruto whispered, breath misting in the cool night air. Akame remained statue still, crimson eyes fixed on the winding road. Patience. A single word, delivered with the calm certainty of a seasoned killer. The tension between them crackled like static electricity. Though they'd been paired for this critical interception, Akame still regarded Naruto with thinly veiled skepticism. Her hand never strayed far from Urasame's hilt, ready to draw at the first hint of trouble, whether from the Empire or her orange-clad companion. Naruto's mind drifted to the mission briefing 2 days earlier, when Night Raid had gathered around the weathered oak table in their hideout. Split into teams, Negenda had ordered, mechanical fingers tapping a rhythm against the map. Leon and mine will create a diversion at the checkpoint here. Lubbock and Tatsumi will handle the rear guard. Bullet and Shio will engage the main force in the central pass. Her steel gaze had settled on Naruto and Akame. You two will secure the Imperial arms and any other cargo they're transporting. We've had reports that this convoy may be carrying more than just spectator. Naruto had raised his hand like an academy student. Quick question. What exactly does this spectator thing look like? Negenda had smiled thinly. According to our intelligence, it's a monocle-like device. Small, easily concealed, but unmistakable in its construction. ornate gold with a crystalline lens. Later, as Night Raid prepared their weapons and equipment, Naruto had found himself surrounded by curious comrades. The hideout's dining hall had been transformed into an impromptu classroom as he sketched crude diagrams on scraps of parchment. So chakra is like life energy? Tatsumi had asked, leaning forward with undisguised fascination. Not exactly, Naruto had replied, drawing intersecting spirals. It's a combination of physical and spiritual energy. Everyone has it in my world, but shinobi learn to control and shape it. And these hand signs? Lubbock had mimicked one awkwardly, fingers tangled. They help you mold this chakra? Right. Different combinations create different effects. Naruto had demonstrated, fingers flickering through seals. Like this sequence is for shadow clone jutsu. Even mine had seemed begrudgingly interested. Could anyone from your world learn this? Technically, yeah. But it takes years of training. Most start as kids. Fascinating, Nagenda had murmured, watching from the doorway. A power system entirely different from Taigu, yet equally formidable in the right hands. Only Akame had remained apart, silently sharpening Murasame, her face expressionless. Yet Naruto had caught her watching his demonstrations from the corner of her eye, analyzing, assessing. What about that other power you mentioned? Leon had pressed, golden eyes gleaming. The one you were holding back during the demonstration? Naruto's hand had instinctively moved to his stomach, feeling the seal beneath his jumpsuit. That's complicated. A distant rumble snapped Naruto back to the present. Below, the first flickers of torchlight appeared around the mountain bend. The convoy had arrived. 6 carriages, Akame whispered, eyes narrowing. Heavy guard formation. 2 riders at point, 12 flanking, 8 at rear. I count 24 soldiers total, Naruto added, impressed despite himself by the precision of her assessment. 26, Akame corrected. 2 inside the third carriage, officers, based on the insignia. The procession wound like a fiery serpent through the darkened pass. Ironclad wheels crunched against gravel. Armored soldiers marched in rigid formation, hands never straying from weapon hilts. At the center of the convoy, one carriage stood out, larger than the others, its windows barred, its frame reinforced with strips of gleaming metal. That's our target, Akame murmured, unsheathing Murasame with a whisper of steel. The imperial arms will be in the secured carriage. We move when we hear the signal. Naruto nodded, tension coiling in his muscles. The plan was simple. Wait for bullet and shield to engage the main force, then drop from above during the confusion. Secure the target, eliminate any resistance, retreat through the eastern ravine where Leon would meet them. Simple. Except for one detail. Akame, Naruto said quietly, about the guards. Kill them quickly, she cut him off. No hesitation. I won't kill unless absolutely necessary, he insisted. There are other ways. A flash of irritation crossed her alabaster features. We discussed this. Your compassion endangers the mission, and your bloodlust endangers your soul, he shot back. She blinked, the only indication that his words had landed. Souls are a luxury in wartime. Before Naruto could respond, the night erupted in chaos. 100 yards ahead, Bullet's armored form crashed into the convoy's vanguard like a meteor. Incursio's blade flashed in the torchlight, cutting through imperial steel as if it were parchment. Simultaneously, Shield appeared among the rear guard, her massive scissors snipping lives like thread. Now, Akame commanded, already in motion, they descended like silent predators, using the towering pines for cover. Naruto's chakra gathered at his feet, propelling him in graceful arcs between branches. Beside him, Akame moved with equally inhuman agility, her body a dark blur against the night sky. They landed amid chaos. Soldiers shouted in confusion, commanders bellowed contradictory orders, horses reared in panic. The scent of blood already hung thick in the air. Akame's comrades had begun their grim work. I'll secure the carriage, Naruto called. Cover me. He dashed forward, creating 5 shadow clones that scattered in different directions, drawing fire from the imperial archers. Arrows hissed through the air where he had been an instant before. 3 guards blocked his path to the reinforced carriage. Naruto didn't break stride. His first clone slid beneath a sword thrust, sweeping the guard's legs with a spinning kick. The second caught a descending blade between crossed kunai, while the real Naruto vaulted over their locked weapons, driving his knee into the second guard's temple. The third managed to slash his spear in a wide arc, dispelling one clone in a puff of smoke before Naruto's fist connected with his solar plexus, folding him like wet parchment. All 3 guards lay unconscious, but alive. Akame appeared beside him in a flash, Murasame dripping crimson. Her eyes flicked to the incapacitated soldiers. You should have killed them, they're down. That's enough. Naruto reached for the carriage door, only to find it locked. Cover me while I break this open. She turned her back to him, blade ready as more soldiers converged on their position. Be quick. Naruto focused chakra into his palm, the beginnings of a Rasengan swirling into existence. The lock didn't stand a chance. Metal shrieked and buckled, the door blasting inward with a splintering crash. The stench hit him first, unwashed bodies, fear, and something medicinal that burned his nostrils. As his eyes adjusted to the dimness, horror froze him in place. Not cargo. Prisoners. A dozen people were chained to the carriage walls, ranging from elders to children barely older than 8. Their clothes hung in tatters, revealing skin mapped with surgical scars and strange, glowing symbols. Several had missing limbs, replaced with crude mechanical prosthetics that pulsed with an unsettling blue light. What the hell? Naruto breathed. A small girl looked up at him, one eye normal, the other replaced with a crystalline orb that rotated mechanically in its socket. Are you here to kill us? She whispered, voice raspy from disuse. No, Naruto knelt beside her, kunai already working at her restraints. We're getting you out of here. Outside, the sounds of battle intensified. Akame's blade sang as she held the perimeter, each stroke claiming another imperial life. Naruto! Status! They're experimenting on people! He shouted back, rage building in his chest as he moved from prisoner to prisoner, breaking their chains. They're turning them into human weapons! The last shackle fell away. Naruto helped an elderly man to his feet, supporting his frail weight. Can you all walk? We need to move quickly. The prisoners shuffled forward on unsteady legs. Years of captivity had wasted their muscles, and whatever procedures they'd endured had clearly taken a heavy toll. The girl with the mechanical eye clung to Naruto's hand, trembling violently. Akame, we need to change plans, Naruto called, emerging from the carriage with his fragile charges. These people need medical attention. Where's the imperial arms? She dispatched one final guard with a fluid slash, then turned to face him. For once, even her impassive mask slipped, revealing momentary shock at the condition of the prisoners. Not here, she said, scanning the convo. They must have. A wave of cold slammed into them, so intense it crystallized the blood on Akame's blade. Naruto's breath turned to ice in his lungs. The very air seemed to solidify, pressure building like the depths of a frozen sea, killing intent. More concentrated, more focused than anything Naruto had ever felt, even from the most dangerous shinobi he'd faced. Well, came a silken voice from atop the lead carriage. What interesting little rats we've caught in our trap. She stood like winter incarnate, tall and imperious, her blue hair cascading over a white general's uniform. A rapier rested casually at her hip, but it was her eyes that chilled Naruto to his core, blue as Arctic ice, yet burning with sadistic pleasure. General is death, Akame whispered, a tremor in her normally steady voice. The temperature plummeted further as Estetha's gaze swept over them, lingering on Naruto with unexpected interest. Night raid, as expected. But you, she pointed at Naruto, you're new. And that power, fascinating. Naruto pushed the frightened prisoners behind him, summoning more shadow clones to shield them. Akame, get them out of here. I'll hold her off. Estetha's laugh echoed like breaking ice. Bold words for a dead man. With casual grace, she flicked her wrist. Ice spears materialized from thin air, a dozen lethal projectiles aimed at Naruto's heart. He dodged by millimeters, feeling their cold kiss as they shattered against the ground where he'd stood. Fast, Estetha purred, looking more delighted than disappointed. This might actually be entertaining. Across the battlefield, their comrades were engaged in their own desperate fights. Bullet, his armor cracked in several places, battled 3 elite guards simultaneously. Shield's scissors flashed as she kept another squad at bay. They couldn't help. Go! Naruto shouted to Akame. I'll distract her. For once, Akame didn't argue. With a tight nod, she began herding the terrified prisoners toward the extraction point, cutting down any who tried to pursue. Naruto faced his death alone, chakra gathering in his palms. You're experimenting on innocent people, he growled. Why? Innocent? Estetha's smile sharpened. Their resources, nothing more. The weak exist to serve the strong. That's the only natural law that matters. She descended from the carriage in a single graceful leap, landing without a sound. Ice crystals formed and dissolved with each step she took, the ground freezing and cracking beneath her boots. The Prime Minister has taken particular interest in enhancing imperial arms, she continued conversationally, as if discussing the weather. These subjects have been most useful in testing compatibility with artificial implementation. They're people, not subjects. Naruto snarled, launching himself forward. He threw everything he had at her, shadow clones attacking from multiple angles, kunai enhanced with wind chakra, even a full-power Rasengan aimed at her midsection, none of it connected. His death moved like water, flowing around his attacks with almost contemptuous ease, her rapier flickering out to dispel his clones one by one. Interesting technique, she remarked, casually sidestepping his Rasengan. Creating solid duplicates? I've never seen anything like it. Ice formed around her hands, extending into wicked claws. With blinding speed, she slashed across Naruto's chest. Only his battle-honed reflexes saved him from being gutted, though blood bloomed across his jumpsuit from the shallow wound. You're strong, his death acknowledged, eyes gleaming with disturbing excitement. Far stronger than the usual rabble. I might even keep you alive for personal use. The suggestive undertone in her voice made Naruto's skin crawl. He created another wave of clones, buying time to catch his breath. His chakra reserves were draining rapidly, the strange properties of this world making techniques more costly than they should be. In the distance, he caught sight of Akame leading the prisoners toward the ravine. Just a few more minutes and they'd reach safety. He just needed to keep his death occupied. Tell me, the general asked, systematically destroying his clones, what are you? Some new type of imperial arms user? A foreign warrior? Your power feels different. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village, he declared, standing tall despite his injuries. And I won't let you harm any more innocent people. Isdetha's eyes widened with genuine curiosity. Hidden Leaf? I've never heard of such a place. She tapped her rapier against her boot. No matter. You'll tell me everything under torture. Movement behind her caught Naruto's eye. The little girl with the mechanical eye had broken away from Akame's group, running back toward the battlefield. Mira, no! Naruto shouted, but it was too late. The child stumbled into the open, clutching something small and golden in her tiny hand. You forgot this. She called to Naruto, the eye thing they were guarding, spectator. The imperial arms they'd been sent to retrieve. Somehow, this brave, foolish child had managed to snatch it during the chaos. Isdetha's attention snapped to the girl, her expression darkening. The test subject has the prototype. Unacceptable. Everything that followed happened in terrible slow motion. Isdetha raised her hand, eyes forming into a gleaming spear. Naruto lunged forward, knowing he wouldn't reach her in time. The spear left Isdetha's hand, a streak of crystalline death, and then the child was falling, the ice spear erupting from her back in a spray of crimson, her small body crumpling like a discarded doll. No! Naruto's scream tore through the night, raw and primal. Something inside him snapped. Deep within, behind the seal that held the nine tails, a lock broke. Rage unlike anything he'd ever known flooded his system, white-hot, all-consuming. The forest around him blurred as crimson chakra erupted from his body in violent waves. His wounds closed instantly. His fingernails lengthened into claws. The whisker marks on his cheeks darkened and widened as his canines extended into fangs. And his eyes, once bright blue, burned crimson with slitted pupils. Even as Death took a step back, her confident smile faltering. What are you? Naruto didn't answer. Couldn't answer. The fox's chakra surged through him, a bubbling red shroud that formed a single tail behind him. The ground beneath his feet cracked and smoldered. Trees within 20 feet withered from the toxic energy. He moved faster than thought, crossing the distance between them in a heartbeat. His death barely managed to form an ice shield before his clawed hand smashed into it, shattering the barrier like glass. The impact sent her skidding backward, genuine surprise registering on her face. Magnificent, she breathed, a disturbing flush rising to her cheeks. Such power! Naruto attacked again, unleashing a barrage of blows that would have killed any normal opponent instantly. His death dodged and parried, her rapier coated in ever-thickening ice to withstand the furious assault. For the first time, she was on the defensive, her perfect composure showing cracks. Each heartbeat pumped more of the Nine Tails chakra into Naruto's system. A second tail began to form, the crimson shroud darkening. His rational mind slipped further away, consumed by white-hot fury and the primal desire to rip, tear, destroy. Kill her! Kill her! The Nine Tails voice echoed in his mind, seductive in its savagery. Through a red haze, Naruto saw Akame racing back toward the battlefield, Murasame drawn. Her eyes widened at the sight of his transformation, recognition and something like fear flashing across her features. Naruto! She shouted, voice barely penetrating the roaring in his ears. Control it! Its death seized the momentary distraction. Her hands slammed together, and a tidal wave of ice erupted from the earth, smashing into Naruto with the force of an avalanche. The freezing mass engulfed him completely, forming a solid glacier where he stood. For one heartbeat, the battlefield fell silent. Then the ice mountain glowed red from within. Cracks spiderwebbed across its surface, steam hissing from the fissures. With an earth-shaking roar, the entire structure exploded outward, shards flying like shrapnel. Naruto stood at the epicenter, the fox's chakra burning even more intensely around him. The second tail had fully formed, lashing violently behind him. Its death stared at him with an expression caught between battle lust and calculation. Blood trickled from a cut on her cheek where an ice shard had struck her. Perhaps the first injury she'd sustained in years. "Another time, Fox Boy," she said, voice husky with excitement. "We'll finish this dance when I can savor it properly." Ice erupted around her, forming a swirling barrier as reinforcements poured into the pass from the north. Dozens of imperial soldiers, accompanied by two figures Naruto couldn't focus on through his rage-clouded vision. "Retreat!" Akame called, suddenly at his side. "Naruto, we have to go. Now!" Some fragment of his consciousness recognized her voice, clung to it like a lifeline. With supreme effort, he forced the fox's chakra back, feeling it burn as it receded into his system. The tails dissolved, the crimson shroud faded, and suddenly he was just Naruto again, exhausted, shaking, and horrified by the wild power that had nearly consumed him. "The girl," he rasped, voice raw. "Mira, dead," Akame confirmed, tugging him toward the extraction point. "But she succeeded. The others have spectator." Naruto looked back once at the small, broken form lying in the blood-stained snow. Something dead and cold settled in his chest, a weight he knew would never fully lift. They fled into the darkness as Estetha's laughter echoed behind them, a promise of future confrontation. Dawn found them regrouped at a Revolutionary Army outpost, miles from the ambush site. The surviving prisoners had been given medical attention, their strange implants examined by rebel doctors. Spectator was secured, wrapped in protective cloth to prevent accidental activation. By any objective measure, the mission was a success. They'd rescued 11 prisoners, secured the imperial arms, and all members of Night Raid had survived, though not without injuries. Bullet nursed 3 broken ribs, Shield's arm hung in a sling, and Leon sported a nasty gash across her back. Yet victory tasted like ashes in Naruto's mouth. He sat alone on the outpost's eastern wall, watching the sun rise over unfamiliar mountains. His body had healed, the fox's chakra repairing the physical damage with frightening efficiency. But inside, something fundamental had shifted. Footsteps approached, light, deliberate. "Akame." She settled beside him without speaking, her presence neither comforting nor accusatory. "Just present." "You saw it," Naruto finally said, not a question. "Yes. In my world I have a passenger. A demon fox sealed inside me since birth. The nine-tailed fox." Akame absorbed this without visible reaction. "Similar to a biological imperial arms, then?" "Not exactly. It's alive. Conscious. And it hates everything human." Naruto's hands clenched. "When I lose control, when I give in to rage or pain, it takes over, and I become something else." "The transformation was like nothing I've seen," she acknowledged. "Your chakra turned toxic. Predatory. I could have killed everyone there. Allies included." The admission burned his throat. "I've never lost control like that before, not even when..." He trailed off, memories of Sasuke's betrayal still too raw to voice. They sat in silence for several minutes, the rising sun painting the landscape in hues of gold and amber. "The girl, Mira," Naruto finally continued. "She died because I wasn't fast enough. Because I held back against his death." "His death is the Empire's strongest," Akame said quietly. "Even at full power, few can stand against her." "You tried to warn me about hesitation," Naruto whispered. "About what it costs in this world." For the first time, Akame's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "And you were right about the cost of certainty." Her hand brushed unconsciously against Murasame's hilt. "Every life I take marks me. Changes me. This is the burden we bear." Naruto looked down at his hands, human now, no trace of the claws that had nearly torn his death apart. "I don't know if my ninja way can survive in this world. Everything here is so absolute." "Then find a new way," Akame suggested, rising to her feet. "Not mine. Not yours from before. Something that lets you live with the blood on your hands." She left him there, silhouetted against the dawn, a stranger in a strange land trying to reconcile ideals with necessity. Behind his navel, the nine-tails stirred restlessly, sensing his turmoil. In the distance, the capital's spires gleamed like teeth in the morning light, a predator waiting to devour the unwary. And somewhere within those walls, his death would be reporting to her masters, describing the orange-clad boy who turned into something monstrous when pushed too far. The game had changed. The Empire would be hunting him now, not just as a member of Night Raid, but as a power to be captured, studied, and weaponized. Naruto's hands curled into fists as he faced the rising sun. I won't let them break me, he vowed silently. I won't become the monster they want to create. I'll find a middle path, one that lets me protect without losing myself. Whether such a path existed in this blood-soaked world remained to be seen. The hideout pulsed with tension. Torchlight cast wild shadows across stone walls as Night Raid gathered in their war room, faces grim beneath the flickering ember glow. 24 hours had passed since the convoy ambush. 24 hours of uneasy silence, sidelong glances, and questions left hanging in the air like poisoned daggers. Naruto sat at the center of their impromptu tribunal, exhaustion etched into every line of his normally animated face. His orange jumpsuit was clean again, but the memory of blood, both his own and Myra's, lingered like a phantom stain. So, Negenda broke the brittle silence, mechanical fingers drumming against the oak table. I think it's time you told us exactly what happened out there. Her single eye narrowed, reflecting torchlight like polished steel. Akame reports you, transformed. 6 pairs of eyes bored into him. Leone lounged against a nearby pillar, her casual pose belied by the predatory focus in her golden gaze. Tatsumi leaned forward, curiosity warring with concern on his open face. Mine's suspicion burned hot enough to scorch. Her small hands clenched around Pumpkin's grip. Lubbock's gaze was clinically curious, analyzing Naruto like a particularly fascinating puzzle. Shield observed with gentle uncertainty, while Bullet's experienced soldier's eyes missed nothing. Only Akame remained apart, a shadow among shadows, her face unreadable. Naruto's throat felt desert dry. I did. Into what, exactly? Mine demanded, voice sharp as a blade's edge. Naruto exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of inevitability settle on his shoulders. He'd known this moment would come eventually. In my world, there are creatures called Bijou, tailed beasts. 9 of them, each with different numbers of tails, each with power that could level mountains. His hand unconsciously drifted to his stomach, where the seal lay hidden. The strongest is the 9-tailed fox, Kurama. You're saying it's inside you, Leone concluded, cutting straight to the heart. Yes. The word hung in the air like a grenade with its pin pulled. I'm what's called a Jinchuriki, a human vessel for a tailed beast. The 4th Hokage sealed the 9 tails inside me the day I was born, to save our village from destruction. Bullshit, mine spat. You expect us to believe you've got some mountain-destroying demon fox trapped in your belly? You saw what happened, Akame spoke for the first time, her quiet voice silencing the room. The red chakra. The transformation. It was no ordinary power. It's called the 9 tails chakra mode, Naruto continued, grateful for the unexpected support. Usually, I can control it, channel small amounts of the fox's chakra to enhance my abilities. But when his death killed Mira, his voice caught, the memory searing fresh again. I lost control. The fox took advantage of my rage. Silence blanketed the room. Outside, rain began to fall, drumming against stone like impatient fingers. Show us, Negenda commanded suddenly. Naruto blinked. What? Show us this power, in a controlled way. She rose, gesturing for the others to follow. The training cavern should contain it. Deep beneath their hideout, the training cavern yawned like a sleeping dragon's mouth, vast, echo-filled, with stalactites hanging like stone fangs from the ceiling. Underground springs created a permanent mist that swirled around their feet as they circled Naruto. Don't get too close, he warned, stepping to the center of the space. The fox's chakra is toxic to anyone else. Naruto closed his eyes, reaching inward where the 9 tails lurked behind its cage. No longer enemies but not quite allies, they had achieved an uneasy détente since Pain's attack on Konoha. Still, the fox remained wild, dangerous, a force of nature barely contained by human will. Kurama, he called silently. I need to show them. Just a little. The fox's rumbling laughter echoed through his mindscape. These assassins fear you now. Good. They should. This isn't about fear. It's about trust. Trust is for the weak, the fox snarled, but nevertheless allowed a trickle of its power to seep through the seal. Naruto's eyes snapped open, now crimson and slitted. The transformation rippled across his body, whisker marks deepening, canines lengthening, nails sharpening to claws. Bubbling red chakra rose from his skin like steam from boiling water, forming a translucent shroud that flickered and danced with otherworldly energy. A single tail of pure chakra formed behind him, lashing the air with savage grace. The cavern temperature spiked. Stones cracked beneath his feet. The water vapor in the air hissed and evaporated in a 10-foot radius around him. The raw power radiating from Naruto's body hit Night Raid like a physical force, an oppressive weight of primal hostility and ancient malice. Holy shit, Lubbock whispered, adjusting his glasses with trembling fingers. Leone's eyes widened, her own beast instincts responding to the predator before her. It's like facing a danger beast, but worse. Even mine had gone pale, pumpkin clutched in white-knuckled hands. Enough, Nagenda called when cracks began spreading rapidly across the stone floor. With visible effort, Naruto reined in the fox's chakra, forcing it back behind the seal. The red glow faded, the tail dissolved, and his features returned to normal. Though sweat now beaded his forehead from the strain. That was barely a fraction of its power, he admitted, voice husky. With more tails I get stronger, but I also lose myself. At 4 tails, I don't recognize friend from foe anymore. How many tails can you manifest? Bullet asked, professional curiosity overriding his shock. 9, theoretically. But I've never gone past 6 and maintained any semblance of control. Naruto's expression darkened. The 8th and 9th would likely destroy everything around me, and maybe me too. It's different from a Taigu, Nagenda observed, circling him thoughtfully. Taigu are tools, weapons that respond to their wielder's will. This is a separate entity with its own consciousness. Exactly. The fox isn't a weapon. He's a living being. Incredibly powerful, incredibly angry, and forced to live inside human hosts for generations. If it hates humans so much, Mine challenged, finding her voice again, why doesn't it just let you die so it can be free? If I die, it dies, Naruto explained. At least temporarily. Eventually it would reform, but Bija feared death as much as any living thing. Tatsumi stepped forward, fascination overriding caution. Can you talk to it? A tired smile crossed Naruto's face. Yeah. Though conversation might be a generous term for what the fox and I usually have. Incredible, Lubbock breathed, mind clearly racing with implications. The applications for combat, espionage, reconnaissance. It's not a tool, Naruto cut him off sharply. And neither am I. Of course not, Nagenda interjected smoothly. But you must understand our position. We've just discovered our newest ally harbors power beyond anything we've encountered. Power that, by your own admission, can be dangerously unstable. The unspoken question hung in the air. Can we trust you? I understand, Naruto replied, meeting her gaze steadily. In your position, I'd have the same concerns. All I can say is that I've spent my whole life learning to control this power. I won't let it endanger any of you. Rain continued to drum above them, the rhythm matching the uncertain beats of their hearts. Morning brought fragile normalcy. After the revelations of the previous night, Night Raid settled into an uneasy acceptance. The fox's existence filed alongside Taigu, danger beasts, and all the other deadly wonders of their world. Naruto found Tatsumi at the hideout's entrance, gazing at the forest canopy still dripping from the night's downpour. Sunlight fractured through wet leaves, casting dappled patterns across the young assassin's thoughtful face. Mind if I join you? Naruto asked, stepping beside him onto the mossy overhang. Tatsumi shook his head, a smile breaking through his pensive expression. I was actually hoping to talk to you. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, breathing in the rain-washed air heavy with the scent of pine and wet earth. You know, Tatsumi finally said, when I first came to the capital, I was so naive. My friends and I thought we'd become successful, send money back to our village, maybe even work our way up to being imperial officers. His green eyes darkened with memory. Instead, they were tortured to death by a noble family for entertainment, and I found myself joining assassins. I heard about that, Naruto replied softly. I'm sorry about your friends. My point is, Tatsumi continued, turning to face him fully, I understand what it's like to feel out of place, to have your world turned upside down, and have to redefine yourself. Naruto nodded, surprised by the insight. That obvious, huh? To me, at least. Tatsumi grinned, some of his usual boyish enthusiasm returning. I've seen how you look at night raids sometimes. Like you're trying to figure out how you ended up with a bunch of assassins. I've definitely asked myself that a few times, Naruto admitted with a wry smile. For what it's worth, I think you belong here more than you realize. Tatsumi's expression grew earnest. You want to protect people. So do we, just in a way that's maybe more direct than you're used to. Naruto considered this, watching a falcon circle lazily above the treetops. In my world, I was going to be Hokage someday, leader of my village. I would have protected everyone, changed the system from within. He sighed, the dream suddenly seeming as distant as the hidden leaf itself. Here, all I see are targets and victims. It's hard to find hope in that. Then we'll make our own hope, Tatsumi declared with conviction that belied his age. That's what Night Raid really is. Not just killers, but people willing to get their hands dirty so others can have a better future. The simple wisdom struck Naruto like a well-aimed kunai, finding the exact spot where his doubts festered. Maybe his ninja way wasn't incompatible with Night Raid's methods. Perhaps they were just different paths to the same destination. When did you get so smart? Naruto asked, nudging Tatsumi's shoulder playfully. Probably around the time I watched you turn into a demon fox and nearly tear General's death apart, Tatsumi replied with a cheeky grin. That tends to give a guy perspective. Their laughter echoed through the forest, startling birds from nearby branches. In another part of the hideout, Mine scowled at her rifle parts spread across the workbench. Disassembling and cleaning pumpkin usually brought her comfort, a methodical ritual that settled her thoughts. Today, her hands moved automatically while her mind remained stubbornly fixed on their orange-clad interloper. I still don't trust him, she announced to seemingly empty air. Leon materialized from the shadows of the armory doorway, a talent that never failed to irritate Mine. You don't trust anyone, she pointed out, sauntering into the room with feline grace. This is different, Mine insisted, snapping Pumpkin's barrel back into place with unnecessary force. He's got a literal monster inside him, one that, by his own admission, he can't always control. Leon leaned against the workbench, golden eyes thoughtful. Couldn't the same be said for me when I used Lionel? Or Bullet with Incursio? That's different, Mine repeated stubbornly. Taiga respond to our will. His fox thing has its own agenda. Maybe, Leon conceded, idly examining a shuriken Naruto had left behind. But you didn't see him against his death. I've never seen anyone, Taiga user or not, push her back like that. Exactly my point. He's too unpredictable, too powerful, and better to have that power with us than against us, wouldn't you say? Leon's smile turned sharp. Besides, I think you're just annoyed because he doesn't flinch when you snap at him. Mine's cheeks flushed. That's ridiculous, is it? Leon's laugh rippled through the armory. Most people can't handle your thorny exterior. He just grins that dopey grin and keeps trying to be friendly. Because he's an idiot, Mine muttered, though with less venom than usual. Maybe, Leon pushed away from the workbench, stretching languidly. Or maybe he just sees something in you worth being friendly to. She sauntered out before Mine could formulate a suitably scathing response, leaving the pink-haired sniper to glare at Pumpkin as if the Imperial arms had somehow betrayed her. Across the hideout, in a chamber filled with books and scrolls, Lubbock bent over a parchment covered in hastily scrawled notes and diagrams. Circles, spirals, and arcane-looking symbols filled the page, alongside annotations in his cramped handwriting. This chakra network. It's basically a circulatory system for energy, he murmured to himself, tapping his pen against his chin. But channeled through specific points. Try not to blow yourself up, came Nagenda's dry voice from the doorway. Lubbock jumped, nearly appending his inkwell. Boss. Just, doing some research. She stepped into his sanctum, eyeing the scattered papers with knowing amusement. On our interdimensional friend's power system, I see. It's fascinating, Lubbock exclaimed, enthusiasm overwhelming his embarrassment. The principles are entirely different from Taigu, yet achieve many similar effects. If we could somehow adapt this knowledge, we can't, Nagenda interrupted gently. From what Naruto described, developing a chakra network requires training from childhood. We don't have that luxury. Lubbock's shoulders slumped slightly. I suppose not. Still, there might be ways to incorporate some of his techniques into our strategies. The shadow clones alone could revolutionize our approach to. A sharp knock interrupted his theorizing. Akame appeared in the doorway, her expression unusually urgent. Nagenda. We've received a message from our informant in the capital. The commander straightened immediately, sensing trouble. Report. The Empire is mobilizing. They've created a special task force specifically to capture Naruto. Akame's crimson eyes flicked to Lubbock, then back to Nagenda. Prime Minister Honest has authorized any means necessary to bring in the orange-haired demon. Lubbock whistled low. That was fast. They must have been seriously spooked by what happened with his death. More like intrigued, Nagenda corrected grimly. Honest wouldn't expend such resources unless he saw potential value. He wants the fox's power for himself. There's more, Akame continued. The task force includes 3 Jaeger members, led by Dr. Stylish. They're developing specialized equipment to neutralize Naruto's abilities. Nagenda's expression hardened. Where is he now? Training with Bullet, Akame replied. Good. He needs to know about this immediately. Nagenda turned toward the door then paused. And Akame? Tell him not to leave the hideout alone under any circumstances. The Empire clearly believes his power could shift the balance of this war. Understood. As Akame departed, Lubbock gathered his notes with new urgency. I should accelerate my analysis of his fighting style. If the Empire's developing countermeasures, we need to adapt his integration into our tactics. Do it, Najenda agreed, already striding toward the war room. This just became our top priority. Sweat poured down Naruto's face as he dodged another of Bullet's lightning-fast strikes. They'd been sparring for hours in the forest clearing behind the hideout, their movements leaving gouges in the earth and splinters in the surrounding trees. Better! Bullet called approvingly, his massive spear whistling through the air where Naruto's head had been a split second earlier. You're adapting to the weight distribution of Empire weapons. Naruto grinned through his exhaustion, weaving between follow-up strikes with increasing fluidity. Training with Bullet had proven unexpectedly valuable. The former Imperial soldier understood both Night Raid's tactics and their enemies' fighting styles intimately. Imperial soldiers rely too much on standard formations, Bullet explained, deliberately telegraphing his next attack so Naruto could study the motion. They're trained to fight as units, not individuals. Their predictability is their weakness. Like the academy styles back home, Naruto observed, countering with a sequence of strikes that incorporated both his shinobi training and Bullet's imperial techniques. Everyone learns the same basics. Exactly. Bullet stepped back, lowering his weapon with an approving nod. You're a quick study. Most people take months to integrate new fighting methods so seamlessly. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed by the praise. Shadow clones help. Whatever they learn, I learn when they dispel. Makes training go faster. Handy trick, Bullet remarked, wiping sweat from his brow with a muscled forearm. Wish my Incursio could do something similar. The sound of approaching footsteps drew their attention. Akame emerged from the forest path, her expression even more serious than usual, a concerning development. We have intelligence, she announced without preamble. The Empire has formed a task force to capture Naruto. Najenda wants everyone for briefing. Bullet's expression darkened instantly. Stylish? Akame nodded once, the simple gesture conveying volumes. Who's stylish? Naruto asked, already following as they headed back toward the hideout. Dr. Stylish, Bullet explained grimly. One of the Jaegers. Scientist, sadist, and a specialist in human experimentation. He's the one responsible for those modifications we saw on the convict prisoners. A chill crawled up Naruto's spine despite the afternoon heat. And he wants me now. More specifically, he wants what's inside you, Akame corrected, her steady gaze meeting his. The Empire now sees your Bija as a potential weapon to exploit. Naruto felt the fox stir restlessly within him. They will try to extract me, Kurama growled, genuine concern threading through his usual hostility. These humans may not have sealing jutsu, but pain and desperation breed innovation. They can try, Naruto muttered, both to Akame and the fox. The war room hummed with grim energy as Najenda outlined their adjusted strategy. Maps of the capital had been marked with new notations, patrol routes, checkpoints, and suspected locations of the newly formed task force. We're implementing immediate countermeasures, she announced, mechanical hands sweeping across the table. All missions will now require minimum 3-person teams. No one enters the capital without full backup protocols in place. Leon lounged against the wall, unusually serious. My contacts say they've distributed your description to every guard post, with orders to report sightings immediately, not engage. They want you intact, Mayan added, arms crossed tightly over her chest. Lucky you. We should consider this development an opportunity, Najenda continued, tapping a specific location on the map. The Imperial Palace's western wing. Our intelligence suggests Dr. Stylish's laboratory is here, where he's developing countermeasures against Naruto's abilities. You want to hit it, Bullet stated, immediately grasping her intent. Precisely. Destroy their research before they can implement it, while simultaneously gathering any intelligence they've collected on interdimensional phenomena. Naruto perked up at this. You think they might have information about the artifact that brought me here? It's possible, Najenda nodded. The Empire has been researching strange energies and artifacts for years. If there's a way to open another dimensional rift, their archives would contain that information. The possibility of finding a way home sent a jolt of electricity through Naruto's veins. He'd been adapting to this world, even finding purpose in Night Raid's cause. But the thought of seeing Konoha again, of rejoining Sakura, Kakashi, and the others, ignited a fierce longing he couldn't suppress. When do we move? He asked, leaning forward eagerly. Not immediately, Najenda cautioned. First, we need better intelligence on their security measures. Leon will coordinate with our informants in the palace. In the meantime, you'll continue training with different team members to optimize our combined tactics. Orders given, the group dispersed to their various assignments. As Naruto turned to leave, Nagenda's voice stopped him. A word if you don't mind. He stayed behind while the others filed out, curious at her solemn tone. The Empire's interest in you changes things, she said once they were alone. Not just for our strategy, but for you personally. How so? Your options have narrowed. Her single eye studied him with calculating intensity. Whatever hesitation you felt about our methods, whatever reservations about joining our cause fully, those are now luxuries you can no longer afford. The blunt assessment hit with the force of truth. You're saying I don't have a choice anymore. I'm saying the Empire has made your choice for you, she corrected. They won't distinguish between Naruto the reluctant ally and Naruto the committed Night Raid member. To them, you're either a weapon to be acquired or a threat to be eliminated. The reality settled like lead in his stomach. Since arriving in this world, he'd maintained a certain mental distance, helping Night Raid while still viewing himself as a visitor, a temporary ally. That illusion had just been shattered. I understand, he said quietly. Do you? Nagenda's voice softened slightly. Because there's something else you should know. If the Empire captures you, if they somehow extract or control the Nine Tails, the devastation would be incalculable. Not just for our cause, but for every innocent person in this world. The implication hung in the air between them, unspoken but clear. If capture became inevitable, death might be preferable to allowing the fox to fall into imperial hands. Naruto met her gaze squarely. It won't come to that. I'd destroy myself before letting them use the fox. Something like approval flickered across Nagenda's face. Let's ensure it never comes to such a choice. She extended her mechanical hand, the gesture formal and significant. Welcome to Night Raid, Naruto Uzumaki. Not as an ally, but as one of us. He clasped her hand, feeling the cold metal against his palm, a perfect physical manifestation of the harsh reality he now embraced. Thank you, Commander. Dusk painted the forest in violet shadows as Naruto climbed to his favorite perch, a jutting stone overlooking both the hideout and, in the far distance, the glittering expanse of the capital. The Empire's stronghold sprawled across the horizon like a jeweled beast, beautiful and deadly. The day's revelations tumbled through his mind. The Empire hunting him. The fox coveted as a weapon. The possibility of finding a way home, counterbalanced by his deepening ties to Night Raid. And beneath it all, the growing certainty that he was exactly where he needed to be, perhaps not by choice, but by something that felt increasingly like destiny. You're growing attached to these killers, Kurama observed within him, voice dripping with disdain. They're not so different from shinobi, Naruto replied aloud, having grown accustomed to these one-sided conversations. Just more honest about what they do. Their battles are meaningless. Human squabbles over land and power. Nothing changes. You're wrong, Naruto countered. These people are fighting to end suffering, to create something better. The fox's cynical laughter echoed through his mindscape. I have lived for centuries, watched empires rise and fall. Nothing ever changes except the names of the oppressors. Maybe, Naruto conceded, watching the distant city lights flicker like trapped stars. But that doesn't mean we stop trying. The fox fell silent, perhaps surprised by the maturity of the response. Over the past years, their relationship had evolved from pure antagonism to something more complex. Not quite partnership, but no longer simple enmity either. As twilight deepened into true night, Naruto expanded his senses outward, a meditation technique that had grown easier in this world. Something about the strange interaction between his chakra and this realm's energy allowed his sensory abilities to stretch further than before. The forest teemed with life, nocturnal creatures stirring, predators beginning their hunts. Beyond that, the scattered settlements outside the capital glowed with civilian presences, each life a small flame in his perception. And further still, the capital itself, a constellation of thousands upon thousands of souls, some bright, some dim, some twisted with darkness that made his skin crawl even at this distance. Then, like a lightning strike cutting through darkness, something flared at the edge of his awareness. A chakra signature, impossible, undeniable, and achingly familiar. Naruto's eyes snapped open, heart thundering against his ribs. That's not possible, he whispered, focusing harder, straining his senses toward the capital. The signature flickered again, unmistakable despite the distance. Cold, controlled, immensely powerful, and branded into Naruto's memory through years of rivalry, betrayal, friendship, and conflict. Sasuke. Somehow, impossibly, Sasuke Uchiha was in the capital. Naruto stared at the distant city, mind reeling. If Sasuke was here, had others come through as well? Was this random chance, or something deliberate? Friend or enemy in this strange world? One certainty crystallized amid the questions. Everything had just changed again. The fox's sardonic laughter rumbled through his consciousness. Now things get interesting. Absolutely not. Najenda's voice cracked through the war room like a whip, her mechanical fingers crushing the cigarette she'd been smoking. The ember died with a faint hiss, ash scattering across the map of the capital spread before them. You're asking to walk straight into a trap, she continued, steel gray eye fixed on Naruto. The Empire is hunting you specifically. Every guard post has your description. Every Jaeger is on alert. Naruto paced the perimeter of the table, restless energy radiating from him in almost visible waves. I felt him, Najenda. Clear as day. Sasuke's chakra signature, in the capital. Another shinobi, bullet mused from his position against the wall, arms crossed over his broad chest. From your world, not just any shinobi. Naruto's eyes flashed with an intensity that made even mine pause in her usual skepticism. Sasuke is complicated, immensely powerful, and dangerous. Friend or foe? Akame asked, the practical question slicing through sentiment. Naruto's expression clouded. I don't know anymore. We were teammates, then enemies, then. He trailed off, the complex history too tangled to unravel in a single conversation. But if he's here, something major is happening. The Empire could be trying to pull more people through from my world. Leon pushed herself away from the wall, golden eyes gleaming with predatory interest. So not just a rescue mission, but intelligence gathering. That changes things. It doesn't change the risk level, Najenda countered, though her tone had shifted from flat refusal to calculation. The capital is on high alert, specifically for him. Then don't send just him, Leon grinned, stretching like the big cat she sometimes became. I'm due to check in with my network anyway. 2 birds, one extremely sexy stone. Tatsumi choked on his drink while Lubbock muttered something that sounded suspiciously like I should be the one going with him. Najenda's gaze flicked between Naruto's determined face and Leon's confident smirk. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, as if nature itself were punctuating the tension in the room. Reconnaissance only, she finally said, each word precise. No engagement with Imperial forces unless absolutely necessary. No attempt to contact this Sasuke. You gather intelligence about the artifact, about any dimensional research, and you get out. Understood? Naruto's face split into a sunburst grin. Crystal clear, boss. And Leon, Najenda added, her expression severe, if there's any sign of the Jaegers, particularly his death, you abort immediately. Drag him back by his whiskers if necessary. Leon's laugh rolled through the chamber like summer thunder. Oh, I'll drag him back all right. You'll need disguises, mine interjected, eyeing Naruto's bright orange jumpsuit with professional disdain. That outfit might as well be a signal flare. And a timeline, Akame added, quiet but insistent. If you're not back within 24 hours, we come looking. As Night Raid's tactical discussion intensified around him, Naruto felt a strange doubling of perception, overlaying this moment with countless mission briefings in Konoha. Different world, different comrades, but the same knot of anticipation tightening in his stomach. And beneath it all, the insistent pulse of Sasuke's distant chakra, calling to him like a beacon across the darkness. Dawn painted the eastern sky in watercolor strokes of rose and gold as Naruto and Leon departed. The forest canopy awakened around them, birds announcing territorial claims, nocturnal creatures returning to dens, dew glistening on spider webs strung between branches like crystalline galaxies. Naruto barely recognized himself in the mirror before they'd left. Gone was the orange jumpsuit, replaced by nondescript brown trousers, a green tunic, and a hooded cloak the color of wet earth. His bright blonde hair was covered in a dark bandana, and Leon had rubbed some kind of herbal mixture across his whisker marks, partially obscuring the distinctive scars. Leon, meanwhile, had transformed herself from warrior to tavern wench with theatrical flair, her golden mane tamed into a modest bun, her usually revealing attire exchanged for a practical serving dress. Only the predatory gleam in her eyes remained unchanged, though she'd learned to mask even that when necessary. So, she broke the comfortable silence as they followed a seldom-used trail toward the capital. You and this Sasuke. What's the real story there? Naruto nearly tripped over an exposed root. What do you mean? Please, Leon snorted, effortlessly sidestepping a mud puddle. Your whole body changes when you say his name. It's like watching someone poke an old wound to see if it still hurts. The morning breeze carried the scent of wildflowers and distant wood smoke as Naruto considered her observation. Sasuke was my first real bond, he admitted finally. We were rivals, then teammates, almost brothers. Then he left. Chose a dark path. I've been trying to bring him back ever since. Ah, Leon nodded sagely. It's like that. Like what? The ones we can't save haunt us the most. Something vulnerable flashed across her usually confident face, there and gone like lightning. Everyone in Night Raid has someone like that. Someone who matters more than reason says they should. They crested a hill, and the capital sprawled before them, morning mist still clinging to its lower districts like ghostly fingers. In daylight, the Empire's heart looked almost benign, white spires reaching skyward, colorful banners fluttering from noble houses, the distant sparkle of the river winding through its center. Different approach today, Leon said, switching seamlessly to mission mode. Main gates are too risky with your description out there. We'll use the Western Aqueduct. Maintenance workers can access the city through the water system. Sewers, Naruto translated with a grimace. It's always sewers. Leon's laugh scattered a flock of startled birds. Consider it camouflage. No one will smell your chakra over that stench. The descent into the valley took them through increasingly cultivated land, wild forests giving way to structured orchards, then to the small farms that fed the capital's endless hunger. Farm workers already bent over rows of crops, their backs curved like question marks against the morning sky. One straightened as they passed, an old woman with a face scored by sun and hardship. Her eyes widened slightly at Naruto, despite his disguise. Markets will be thin today, she called, the seemingly innocuous comment delivered with meaningful intensity. Imperial inspections in the lower ring. Leon nodded once, the exchange completed in seconds. Thank you, grandmother. We'll be cautious with our purchases. Your network? Naruto asked as they continued, impressed by the seamless interaction. Everywhere, Leon confirmed, pride evident in her voice. Farmers, tavern workers, street urchins, even some noble servants. The Empire forgets that the people they step on are watching them. They followed a stream downhill until it disappeared into a large stone culvert. Leon led them along a narrow maintenance path until they reached a service door, rusted but functional. She produced a key from within her bodice. Standard issue to water workers, she explained with a wink. Amazing what people will hand over after a few drinks and a sympathetic ear. The lock yielded with a protesting squeal. Beyond the door stretched a dank tunnel, intermittently lit by shafts of sunlight stabbing through grates overhead. The promised stench hit Naruto like a physical force. This particular path will bring us up in the middle ring, Leon explained as they splashed through shallow, foul water, close enough to the upper ring to gather intelligence, but not so restricted that our presence will immediately raise alarms. And Sasuke's chakra? Naruto asked, focusing his senses despite the distracting environment. Leon shrugged. If your friend is in the upper ring, that suggests either prisoner status or collaboration with Imperial forces. Neither scenario encourages rushing and whiskers blazing. Naruto couldn't argue with her logic, though every instinct urged him toward the familiar chakra signature that pulsed like a distant heartbeat at the edge of his awareness. After 20 minutes of careful navigation through the labyrinthine undercity, Leon stopped beneath a particular shaft of light. She studied the street visible through the overhead grate, then nodded in satisfaction. Perfect timing. She reached for the iron ladder built into the wall. Market day in the textile district. We'll blend right in with the crowd. They emerged in a narrow alley between two warehouses, the sounds and smells of the market washing over them in a chaotic wave. Merchants hawking their wares, animals protesting their confinement, food stalls sending aromatic promises into the air. Leon immediately adjusted her posture, adopting the slightly harried demeanor of a tavern worker on errands. Stay close, she murmured, looping her arm through Naruto's. And remember your cover. You're my simple country cousin, new to the capital and a bit overwhelmed. Shouldn't be hard to act, Naruto muttered, genuinely overwhelmed by the sensory assault of the imperial capital in full commercial fervor. They slipped into the crowd, just another pair of working-class citizens navigating the controlled chaos. Despite the seeming disorder, Naruto quickly noticed the underlying patterns, the heightened imperial presence Leon's informant had warned about, the way certain citizens gave soldiers a wider berth than necessary, the hushed conversations that paused when uniforms approached. Increased security everywhere, Leon observed under her breath as they passed a checkpoint where guards were inspecting market-goers' papers with unusual thoroughness. Something's got them spooked. Me, probably, Naruto replied with grim humor. Maybe. Leon's expression remained carefully neutral as she steered them toward a busy tavern. But this feels different. More coordinated than a simple manhunt. The tavern, the Drunken Sparrow according to its swinging sign, buzzed with midday activity. Leon guided them to a corner table with a clear view of both the door and the bar, signaling to an overworked server with familiar ease. My second home, she explained at Naruto's questioning look. Best place in the middle ring for information. These walls have absorbed more state secrets than the Imperial archives. The server, a harried young woman with shrewd eyes, appeared at their table with 2 mugs of ale. Market Day Special, she announced loudly, before adding in a whisper, Tatsumi's safe. They want him at the South Gate tonight. Said it's urgent. Leon's expression never changed, though Naruto felt her momentarily tense beside him. Thanks, Lily. Any news about Imperial research? Strange artifacts, unusual prisoners? The server wiped their table with exaggerated thoroughness. Upper ring's been sealed tight for 3 days. Scientists coming and going from the west wing of the palace. And, her voice dropped even lower, they brought in some dark-haired foreigner yesterday. Cold eyes. Guards seemed afraid of him. Naruto's heart hammered against his ribs. Sasuke. It had to be. Anything else? Leon pressed, sliding a coin across the table with practiced subtlety. They're planning something big, Lily murmured. Tonight. Military units mobilizing at all gates. Something about a demonstration that will change the course of the war. With a final nod, she disappeared back into the tavern's bustling interior, leaving Naruto and Leon to exchange loaded glances over their untouched ale. We need to get into the palace, Naruto stated, determination hardening his voice. Leon's eyes widened. Well, there, Whiskers. That wasn't the mission. Intelligence gathering only, remember? And the best intelligence is in the West Wing, he countered. Where they're keeping the artifact and probably Sasuke. Thunder rumbled overhead, closer now, as if the brewing storm were tethered to their escalating tension. Leon studied him with narrowed eyes, weighing duty against opportunity. I know a way, she finally conceded. But it's risky as hell, and if we're caught, Nagenda will personally ensure we're reincarnated as dung beetles. Naruto grinned, already calculating chakra reserves and shadow clone strategies. Wouldn't be a proper mission without the threat of dung beetle reincarnation. Afternoon shadows stretched like grasping fingers across the upper ring as Leon led Naruto through a series of increasingly exclusive neighborhoods. The contrast with the lower and middle rings was stark: pristine streets, ornamental gardens, and mansions that could house entire lower ring communities with room to spare. Their disguises had changed again. Now they wore the simple uniform of palace laundry workers, with Leon's hair hidden beneath a cap and Naruto's posture carefully adjusted to appear unmemorable. The service entrance is the least guarded, Leon explained as they approached the palace's western perimeter. Security focuses on weapons and taigu, not laundry baskets and mops. Won't they recognize you? Naruto asked. Your wanted poster is everywhere, Leon snorted. People see what they expect to see. To them, we're just servants, invisible by design. The laundry wagons were already queuing at the service gate, enormous baskets of linens being checked before entry. Leon steered them toward the third wagon in line, exchanging a subtle nod with its driver. Another contact? Naruto whispered, impressed by the extent of her network. Former target's ex-lover, Leon whispered back. He's been helping us since I saved him from becoming collateral damage during an assassination. They slipped among the baskets, burrowing beneath fresh linens just as the wagon lurched forward for inspection. Through a small gap in the fabric, Naruto watched guards perfunctorily check the contents, more concerned with hidden weapons than hidden assassins. Clear, a bored voice announced, and the wagon rolled forward into the palace grounds. The service courtyard bustled with controlled chaos. Cooks receiving deliveries, maids hurrying across with fresh linens, stable hands leading horses to and from the royal stables. Leon and Naruto emerged from their hiding place when the wagon stopped, immediately falling into the natural rhythm of servants at work. The west wing is that way, Leon murmured, hefting a basket of linens onto her hip and inclining her head toward an imposing structure of white marble and gold filigree. But we can't just walk in. That section houses the Imperial Research Division. Access is restricted to authorized personnel. Naruto's mind raced, weighing options against risks. I could create a distraction while you slip in. Too obvious. The alarm would lock down the entire wing. Leon's eyes scanned the courtyard with professional assessment. We need something subtle. A commotion at the main entrance interrupted their planning. Imperial guards snapped to attention as a procession entered the courtyard. A small but imposing group centered around a tall woman with ice blue hair. Is death? Leon hissed, ducking behind a pillar and pulling Naruto with her. And the three beasts. 3 figures flanked the general, a massive man with a gleaming mohawk, a refined gentleman with a monocle and immaculate military uniform, and a sinuous woman whose body seemed to twist in unnatural ways. Each radiated deadly competence, their eyes constantly scanning for threats. Her personal squad, Leon whispered. Liver, Niao, and Daidara. Elite killers, completely loyal to his death alone. Naruto's gaze, however, had fixed on the figure walking slightly behind his death, a young man with raven dark hair and cold, impassive features. Though dressed in the Empire's colors, his bearing remained uniquely his own. Sasuke Uchiha, walking freely among the Empire's elite. That's him, Naruto breathed, emotions warring in his chest, relief at seeing his friend alive, concern at his apparent alliance with his death, and beneath it all, the familiar ache of their complicated bond. So much for prisoner status, Leon murmured, watching the procession disappear into the West Wing. Looks like your friend found powerful allies. Naruto's mind raced with implications. Had Sasuke been turned against him? Was he cooperating willingly, or playing some deeper game? And most urgently, what did his presence have to do with the Empire's mysterious demonstration plan for tonight? We need to follow them, he decided, already calculating risks against the growing sense of urgency tightening his chest. Leon's golden eyes widened. Into the West Wing? With his death and her death squad? That's suicide, even for us. Not if we're smart about it. Naruto formed the familiar hand sign, keeping his chakra tightly controlled. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A single clone popped into existence beside him, immediately transforming its appearance to match a random palace guard they'd observed earlier. Before Leon could protest, the clone had moved into the courtyard, creating a commotion by accidentally appending a cart of vegetables. What are you? Leon began. But Naruto was already moving, pulling her toward a service door left momentarily unguarded during the distraction. They slipped through the door and found themselves in a utilitarian corridor, clearly the behind-the-scenes network that allowed the palace to function. Servants hurried past with single-minded focus, too busy with their own tasks to question two more workers in proper uniform. This is insane, Leon muttered, though she matched Naruto's purposeful stride. Even for me, and I specialize in insane. That's why it'll work, Naruto replied with the confidence of someone whose most successful missions had typically involved improbable gambles. No one expects insane. They followed the service corridor deeper into the West Wing, the decor gradually shifting from functional to opulent as they approached areas occasionally seen by nobility. Naruto expanded his sensory awareness, tracking Sasuke's distinctive chakra signature through the maze-like structure. Third floor, he murmured to Leon. Some kind of laboratory or workshop. How do you know that? The chakra flow in the building. It's concentrated there, like they're channeling energy. He frowned, sensing something familiar yet distorted. It feels like the artifact that brought me here, but amplified. They located a service stairwell and ascended carefully, Leon's acute hearing checking for approaching footsteps at each landing. The third-floor corridor was noticeably different, clinical rather than ornate, with reinforced doors and strange humming emanating from behind them. Imperial Research Division, Leon confirmed in a bare whisper. Where they develop new weapons, study Taigu, and conduct experiments too horrific for public knowledge. A pair of guards stood at attention before the largest door at the corridor's end. Even from a distance, Naruto could feel what lay beyond. Sasuke's cold, controlled chakra signature, and beneath it, the disorienting pulse of something that resonated with his own interdimensional journey. We can't get past those guards without raising the alarm, Leon assessed, frustration evident in her tense posture. Naruto studied the corridor's layout, noting the ventilation system overhead. We don't need to get past them. Before Leon could question him, he pulled her into an empty supply closet and pointed upward. The ventilation connects the rooms. Standard design in large buildings. Even in my world, I'm pretty sure crawling through air ducts is harder than it looks, Leon countered, though she was already eyeing the small grate in the ceiling with professional interest. Good thing you're with someone who specializes in the impossible. Naruto grinned, forming another shadow clone to give Leon a boost toward the ceiling. The ventilation shaft was cramped and dusty, forcing them to crawl on elbows and knees through the narrow metal passage. Leon led the way, her enhanced senses navigating the labyrinth of branching ducts while Naruto followed, guided by his awareness of Sasuke's chakra growing stronger with each meter. There, Leon whispered, pointing toward a grate from which emanated an eerie blue light and the murmur of voices. They positioned themselves on either side of the opening, peering down into a scene that confirmed their worst fears. The laboratory sprawled below them, a cavernous space filled with arcane equipment, humming machinery, and at its center, a familiar artifact. The crystal that had brought Naruto to this world now sat harnessed within an elaborate framework of metal and glass, pulsing with intensified energy that made his teeth ache and his chakra swirl uneasily within him. Scientists in white coats scurried around the apparatus, adjusting dials and recording measurements. Isdeth stood watching with cold interest, her three beasts positioned at strategic points around the room. And beside the general, studying the artifact with the red gleam of Sharingan, stood Sasuke. Remarkable progress, Dr. Stylish, Isdeth was saying to a flamboyant man with pompadour hair and tinted glasses. The Prime Minister will be pleased. Science is an art, my dear general, the doctor replied with theatrical modesty. Once your new associate explained the metaphysical principles involved, the rest was merely elegant application of energy dynamics. Sasuke's expression remained impassive, but Naruto, who had years of experience reading his friend's subtle cues, detected the calculating assessment behind his apparent cooperation. The amplification framework is complete, Stylish continued, gesturing grandly at the apparatus. With the modifications suggested by our interdimensional friend here, we should be able to not only open a controlled rift, but specifically target individuals of significant power. Excellent. Istetha's smile sent a chill down Naruto's spine. And the first demonstration is prepared for tonight? Indeed. The coordinates are set for the location you specified. Once activated, the rift will create a localized dimensional tear exactly where Night Raid's hideout is believed to be. Naruto and Leon exchanged alarmed glances. The Empire had discovered their base. And what precisely will this tear do? Isteth asked, trailing one gloved finger along the crystal's housing. Dr. Stylish's smile widened to disturbing proportions. Think of it as a localized apocalypse, my dear. The tear will essentially dissolve the boundary between dimensions at that specific point. Anything caught within its radius will be simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, torn apart at the quantum level. How wide a radius? Liver asked, the first of the three beasts to speak. Approximately 1 kilometer, Stylish answered with inappropriate cheer. More than enough to ensure complete elimination of the assassin scum. Naruto felt Leon's hand close around his wrist, her grip tight enough to bruise. Their entire team, their home, all threatened with molecular annihilation in a matter of hours. And the secondary objective? Isteth prompted, her gaze shifting to Sasuke. Once the initial demonstration proves successful, Stylish continued, we can reverse the polarity to pull specific individuals from the other dimension. Our guest has kindly provided the unique energy signatures of several exceptionally powerful warriors from his world. Sasuke's expression remained unreadable, but a muscle twitched in his jaw, a tell Naruto recognized from their childhood. Whatever game Sasuke was playing, he wasn't fully aligned with the Empire's goals. The Prime Minister is particularly interested in the one called Madara, Stylish added, consulting his notes. Based on the description, his abilities would revolutionize our military capabilities. Horror flooded Naruto's system. If the Empire managed to pull Madara Uchiha into this world, the devastation would be unimaginable. The entire continent would burn. A slight sound from further down the ventilation shaft froze them in place. Leon's eyes widened in warning just as Naruto sensed the approaching chakra signatures, 3 of them, moving with predatory intent. We've been discovered, Leon mouthed silently, already turning to retreat. They backtracked as quickly as stealth would allow, but the confined space limited their options. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew closer. Metal creaking under weight, the scrape of weapons against the duct walls. The storage room, Leon hissed. If we can reach it. The shaft beneath them suddenly tore open, metal peeling back like paper as a massive blade ripped through from below. Naruto and Leon tumbled through the jagged opening, landing hard on the polished floor of an ornate corridor. The 3 beasts stood before them, weapons drawn. Deidara, the massive mohawked warrior, hefted an axe that glowed with unnatural energy. Liver, the refined soldier, manipulated floating globes of water that swirled with lethal intent. Miao, the lithe female, held a flute to her lips, the music already distorting the air around them. Well, Deidara grinned, his axe humming with anticipation. Rats in the walls, just as the boss predicted. Leon of Night Raid, Liver identified with cold precision. And the dimensional anomaly. Generalist Death will be pleased. We're so screwed, Leon muttered, shifting her stance to fighting position nonetheless. Naruto's mind raced through options, calculating escape routes against the need to warn their comrades about the impending attack on the hideout. There was no time for subtlety now. Plan B, he announced, forming the familiar hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. The corridor filled with orange smoke as dozens of clones burst into existence, immediately launching themselves at the 3 beasts in a chaotic wave. The element of surprise bought them seconds at best. These were elite killers, not common guards, but seconds were all they needed. This way! Leon shouted, already smashing through a decorative window at the corridor's end. Glass shattered outward as they leapt into open air, 3 stories above the palace grounds. They landed hard but rolling, Leon's enhanced physique and Naruto's chakra cushion descent preventing serious injury. Alarms blared throughout the palace complex as guards poured from every entrance. Split up! Leon commanded, her body already beginning to transform as her Taiju activated. Lionel's power rippled through her, limbs extending, claws emerging, her entire form becoming more feline and lethal. Meet at the South Water Gate in 20 minutes, Naruto nodded, creating another wave of shadow clones to scatter in all directions, confusing their pursuers. As Leon vanished into the gathering dusk with feline speed, he charged in the opposite direction, needing distance to attempt his riskiest technique. Imperial soldiers closed in from all sides, their discipline evident in their coordinated movements. Above the cacophony of shouts and alarm bells, Naruto heard a sound that turned his blood to ice. The sharp, distinctive chirp of 1,000 birds. Chidori. Sasuke's signature technique. He risked a glance backward and saw his old friend standing on a palace balcony, lightning crackling around his hand. Their eyes met across the distance, blue to red, question to enigma. Sasuke's expression revealed nothing, but he made no move to attack. Instead, he simply watched as Naruto bounded over the perimeter wall, disappearing into the maze of upper ring streets beyond. The rain finally broke as Naruto navigated the city's labyrinthine layout, thunder crashing overhead as if the heavens themselves were responding to the chaos unfolding below. Water coursed down cobblestone streets, turning to muddy torrents in the lower districts. He ducked into an abandoned building near the South Water Gate, the designated meeting point with Leon. The structure's roof had partially collapsed, allowing rain to pool on the floor in silvery puddles that reflected the lightning flashes above. 20 minutes passed, then 30. No sign of Leon. Naruto paced the damp interior, anxiety mounting with each passing minute. The information they'd gathered was too critical to delay. Night Raid needed warning immediately, but leaving without Leon felt like abandoning a comrade. Just as he decided to search for her, a shadowy figure slipped through a broken window, moving with liquid grace despite obvious injury. Leon! Naruto rushed forward as she collapsed against the wall, blood seeping through her torn clothing. Those three beasts, she gasped, clutching a particularly nasty gash across her ribs, really live up to their name. You fought them? Alone? Naruto immediately began channeling healing chakra into his hands. Not his specialty, but Sakura had taught him the basics. Didn't have much choice, she grimaced as his energy began knitting her wound. They separated and came after us both. I got Niao, but the other two were. She hissed in pain as a broken rib realigned. Let's just say I'm lucky to be breathing. We need to move, Naruto said, helping her to her feet once the worst injuries were stabilized. The hideout is about to become ground zero for an interdimensional bomb, Leon finished grimly. Yeah, I heard. But all exits from the city are sealed now. They've mobilized the entire garrison. Naruto's mind raced through options, each seeming more desperate than the last. Then a memory surfaced. His first day in the capital, how he'd entered undetected. The walls, he said suddenly. We go over, not through. Leon's eyes widened, then narrowed thoughtfully. Possible. The rain will reduce visibility for the guards on the battlements. But you need to be able to stick to a vertical surface in a downpour, and I need to. I'll carry you, Naruto cut in, already moving toward the door. My chakra control can handle both of us. The journey to the outer wall was a harrowing game of shadows, darting between patrols, freezing in darkened doorways as searchlights swept past, using the storm's fury as cover for their movements. Leon, despite her injuries, proved remarkably resilient, moving with determined focus when necessary and accepting Naruto's support without pride when needed. They reached the wall at its least guarded section, where it abutted a sheer cliff face considered too treacherous for escape attempts. Rain battered the stone in sheets, turning the vertical surface into a slick waterfall. Even for me, this is pushing it, Naruto admitted, studying the challenge before them. I need to try something different. Leon watched with fascination as he settled into a meditative stance, perfectly still despite the raging storm around them. Something shifted in the air, a gathering of unseen energy that made her skin prickle and her Lionel-enhanced senses heightened to painful clarity. When Naruto's eyes opened, they had changed. Horizontal pupils surrounded by golden irises, his entire bearing subtly altered. Orange pigmentation framed his eyes like an exotic mask. Sage mode, he explained, voice deeper and more resonant. I can sense every guard position on the wall, every patrol route, and the safest path up. Leon stared in open amazement. Full of surprises, aren't you, Whiskers? He smiled, the expression both familiar and strangely different in his transformed state. You haven't seen anything yet. With strength that belied his lean frame, Naruto lifted Leon onto his back. She wrapped her arms around his neck, clinging like a second skin as he approached the wall. Whatever happens, don't let go, he instructed, placing one palm against the rain-slick stone. The climb defied physics. Naruto moved up the vertical surface as if gravity were merely a suggestion rather than law, each movement precise and efficient. Natural energy flowed through him, bonding him to the stone itself, finding purchase where none should exist. Guard posts passed below and above them, soldiers squinting uselessly into the storm, unaware of the figures clinging to the wall mere meters away. Leon pressed herself tight against Naruto's back, her enhanced night vision tracking patrols while his senses mapped their optimal path. They crested the battlements during a perfectly timed lightning flash, the guards momentarily blinded by the brilliance. Their night vision reset just as Naruto and Leon slipped over the edge and began their descent down the outer face. The drop to the ground outside took moments, cushioned by Naruto's chakra. They hit the muddy earth running, forest shadows swallowing them as imperial alarms began blaring behind them. Too late. Their quarry already vanished into the night. The forest blurred around them as they raced toward the hideout, pushing their bodies to the limit. Leon ran with preternatural speed despite her injuries, Lionel's power giving her stamina beyond human endurance. Beside her, Naruto maintained Sage Mode, the natural energy suffusing his system counteracting fatigue. How much time do we have? Leon gasped as they leapt across a rain-swollen stream. The demonstration was scheduled for midnight, Naruto replied, checking the position of the moon through breaks in the storm clouds. Less than 2 hours now, and we're still an hour from the base at top speed. Leon's golden eyes gleamed with grim determination. We won't make it in time to evacuate everyone. We don't need to reach the base, Naruto realized suddenly, skidding to a halt in a muddy clearing. I just need to get close enough. Leon watched as he formed an unfamiliar hand sign, chakra swirling visibly around him despite the pouring rain. What are you doing? Something I've only tried a few times, he explained, concentration etched across his features. Long-distance shadow clone transmission. If I can get a clone within range of the hideout, I can warn them. The technique demanded perfect chakra control and a clear mental image of the destination. Naruto focused on the hideout's war room, the place his clone would be most likely to find multiple team members. Sage Mode enhanced his range, pushing the technique's limits beyond what he'd previously achieved. With a surge of energy that momentarily parted the rainfall around him, the jutsu activated. Miles away, in Night Raid's hideout, a shadow clone would now be materializing with urgent warnings. Did it work? Leon asked, watching his expression carefully. I think so. He released the Sage Mode, shoulders sagging as the enhanced energy left his system. Now we need to stop that device from activating. Leon's expression hardened. Back to the capital? That's suicide. They'll have tripled security by now. Not the capital, Naruto shook his head. The activation site. Stylish said they were setting up the coordinates where they believed our hideout to be. Understanding dawned in Leon's eyes. They need line of sight for precision targeting. There's a ridge about 5 kilometers east of the base, perfect vantage point. And perfect for us to sabotage, Naruto added, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten as determination surged through him. They altered course, moving eastward through the storm-lashed forest. The rain had begun to slacken, though thunder still rumbled in the distance, the storm's fury gradually spending itself. As they approached the ridge Leon had identified, Naruto extended his senses outward, searching for signs of imperial presence. The chakra signatures bloomed in his awareness like deadly flowers. At least 30 soldiers, 3 Taigi users, and at the center, the disorienting pulse of the dimensional artifact. Heavy opposition, he warned as they crouched at the forest's edge, studying the imperial encampment established on the ridge. Floodlights cut through the diminishing rainfall, illuminating a cleared area where scientists worked frantically around equipment ferried from the palace. At the center stood a smaller version of the apparatus they'd seen earlier, the dimensional crystal pulsing with increasing intensity. The 3 beasts? Leon asked, voice tight with apprehension. Naruto nodded grimly. All of them. And they know we're coming. Of course we know, a refined voice spoke from directly behind them. They whirled to find Liver standing casually in the rain, water droplets orbiting around him in defiance of gravity. His imperial uniform remained immaculate despite the conditions, his posture that of a man utterly confident in his superiority. General as Death anticipated your attempt to warn your comrades, he continued conversationally. The long-range shadow clone was quite impressive, I must say. Unfortunately, it never reached its destination. Cold dread settled in Naruto's stomach. What do you mean? Your clone encountered an unexpected obstacle on its journey. Liver's smile never reached his eyes. Our newest ally proved most effective at intercepting it, Sasuke. It had to be. He must have pursued the clone and destroyed it before it could deliver its warning. Leon launched herself at Liver with a feral snarl, claws extended for a killing blow. The former Imperial commander didn't flinch, merely gesturing with 2 fingers. Water from the rain-soaked ground erupted upward, forming a pressurized jet that caught Leon mid-leap, sending her crashing through a nearby tree. Now then, Liver adjusted his gloves with meticulous precision. Shall we proceed with the formalities? Generalist Death would prefer you alive, particularly you, Naruto Uzumaki. Your power has intrigued her. Sorry to disappoint, Naruto growled, chakra gathering around him in visible waves. But I've got other plans. The forest exploded into chaos as the remaining two beasts converged on their position. Deidara crashed through the underbrush, massive axe cleaving trees like kindling. Meow dropped from the branches above, flute already at her lips, the discordant notes distorting perception and balance. Leone recovered from the initial attack, blood streaming from a gash on her forehead but eyes burning with rage. She intercepted Deidara, her smaller form darting around his devastating but slower strikes, claws seeking vulnerable points in his armor. Naruto found himself facing both Liver and Yao, their coordinated attacks leaving no opening for escape. Water jets pressurized to flesh-cutting intensity forced him to constantly relocate. While Niao's flute music made each movement increasingly difficult, his body responding sluggishly to his commands. The dimensional device activates in 15 minutes, Liver announced with clinical detachment as he sent another water spear hurtling toward Naruto's chest. Your comrades remain unaware of their impending dissolution. How does it feel, knowing you've failed them so completely? Rage and desperation fueled Naruto's response. The familiar warmth of the Nine-Tails chakra stirred within him, offering power in exchange for control. He hesitated only momentarily before accepting the bargain. Controlled access rather than complete surrender. Red chakra erupted around him, forming a single tail that lashed the rain-soaked ground. His features sharpened, canines lengthening, whisker marks deepening, eyes shifting to crimson slits. The transformation was partial but potent, enough to enhance his abilities without surrendering his reason. What fascinating power, Liver observed, genuine interest breaking through his professional demeanor. Dr. Stylish will be ecstatic to study your biology. Study this, Naruto snarled, forming a Rasengan in each hand. The spiraling spheres glowed with reddish energy, the Nine-Tails chakra amplifying their destructive potential. He launched forward with inhuman speed, the ground cratering beneath his feet from the force of his departure. Miao's flute music faltered as he approached, the musician's confidence wavering before the predatory aura radiating from the transformed shinobi. The first Rasengan connected with Miao's hastily raised defense, shattering her flute and sending her tumbling backward with a shriek of pain and outrage. The second Naruto drove toward Liver, who responded with a barrier of water compressed to near solid density. The collision between Rasengan and water barrier created a localized explosion that blasted both combatants apart. Steam hissed where the superheated chakra had instantly vaporized Liver's water defense. Across the clearing, Leone was holding her own against Deidara, her agility compensating for his overwhelming strength. Blood matted her golden mane, but her movements remained precise and lethal, gradually wearing down the larger warrior through 1,000 small wounds. 9 minutes to activation, a scientist called from the ridge, his voice carrying through the diminishing rainfall. Naruto locked eyes with Leone across the battlefield, silent understanding passing between them. The three beasts were a delaying tactic, keeping them occupied while the dimensional device counted down to activation. They needed to break through, now. Leone! Naruto shouted, forming the hand sign for Shadow Clone Jutsu. Pincer maneuver. She nodded once, immediately disengaging from Deidara and sprinting into the forest's cover. The Mohawked warrior pursued with a bellow of frustration, exactly as planned. Dozens of shadow clones burst into existence around Naruto, each glowing with the crimson aura of the Nine-Tails chakra. They scattered in all directions, engaging Liver and the recovering Yao from multiple angles, creating a chaotic battlefield of identical attackers. Under cover of this distraction, Naruto himself charged directly for the ridge. Liver, recognizing the strategy too late, attempted to intercept him with a barrage of water projectiles. Several connected, dispelling shadow clones in puffs of orange smoke. But the real Naruto pressed forward, shrugging off injuries that would have felled most warriors. 6 minutes to activation. The scientist's increasingly excited voice announced. The ridge loomed before him, imperial soldiers forming a defensive line around the dimensional device. Beyond them, Naruto could see the crystal pulsing with increasing frequency, the metal framework channeling its energy into a focused beam aimed directly at Night Raid's hidden base. He was too late. The imperial forces were too dense, the distance too great to cover in the remaining time. Desperation clawed at his throat as he pushed his body beyond its limits, the fox's chakra burning through his system with increasing intensity. A bestial roar shattered the night as Leone burst from the forest to his right, literally dragging Deidara by one leg. With a strength that defied her size, she hurled the massive warrior into the imperial defensive line, bowling over half a dozen soldiers in the process. Go! She screamed at Naruto, already engaging the disorganized defenders. I'll hold them off, Naruto didn't waste the opening, vaulting over the chaos and landing within the scientific perimeter. Technicians scattered before his approach, abandoning equipment in their panic. For minutes to activation, the lead scientist stammered, backing away from the control panel as Naruto advanced. Why, you're too late. The process has entered final sequencing. It cannot be aborted. Watch me, Naruto growled, studying the apparatus with desperate intensity. The crystal sat at the center of a complex framework, energy pulsing through conduits aimed toward the distant hideout. Disrupting the alignment might be enough to prevent catastrophe. He formed another Rasengan, this one larger and more unstable as he fed it with as much chakra as he could safely control. The spiraling sphere grew to the size of a small boulder, casting crimson light across the rain-slick equipment. Don't! A new voice cut through the chaos, familiar, cold, precise. Sasuke stood at the perimeter of the camp, watching with Sharingan red eyes. His hand rested casually on his sword hilt, posture relaxed yet alert. Sasuke. Naruto held the massive Rasengan ready, but didn't release it. You're working with them? After everything we've seen, everything we've fought for? You don't understand the situation, Sasuke replied, his voice betraying no emotion. Stand down. They're going to kill my friends, Naruto shot back, anger and betrayal burning in his chest. Our friends are looking for us back home, and you're helping these people tear holes between worlds. 3 minutes to activation, the scientist whimpered, cowering behind a console. Sasuke took a single step forward. This device won't harm your assassin friends, Naruto. Liar! Leon shouted from where she fought a rearguard action against the regrouping Imperial forces. We heard everything in the laboratory. You heard what they were meant to hear, Sasuke countered, his gaze never leaving Naruto. A performance for his death and her scientists. Doubt flickered through Naruto's determination. He knew Sasuke, knew his capacity for deception, for playing the long game. What are you saying? The coordinates aren't set for Night Raid's hideout, Sasuke stated flatly. I altered them while appearing to cooperate. This device will open a dimensional rift, but not where they think. 2 minutes to activation. Naruto's Rasengan wavered, uncertainty staying his hand. Where then? The Imperial Palace, Sasuke replied, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. Specifically, the Prime Minister's chambers. The audacity of the deception momentarily stunned Naruto into silence. If Sasuke was telling the truth, he'd manipulated the Empire into deploying their weapon against their own leadership. Why would you do that? Naruto demanded, needing to understand. Sasuke's expression darkened. I was pulled into this world against my will, just like you. I saw what the Empire does to its people. The Prime Minister is unacceptable. The simple condemnation contained volumes of meaning between two who had witnessed both the heights of human nobility and the depths of depravity. 1 minute to activation. If you destroy the device now, Sasuke continued calmly, the backlash of energy will kill everyone within half a kilometer. Including you and your feline friend. Leon had fought her way to Naruto's side, blood spattered and breathing hard but still standing. Can we trust him? She asked, never taking her eyes off the surrounding Imperial forces who had paused their assault, awaiting orders. Naruto studied his oldest friend, searching for signs of deception. The Sasuke he knew was capable of elaborate lies, but always in service to his own goals. If those goals aligned with theirs, even temporarily. 30 seconds to activation. If you're lying, Naruto warned, allowing the Rasengan to dissipate, I'll never forgive you. Sasuke's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes, acknowledgement of the weight that particular threat carried between them. 20 seconds. The Imperial forces began to retreat, falling back to a perimeter established by Dr. Stylish himself, who had arrived during the confusion. The flamboyant scientist watched the dimensional device with unrestrained excitement, completely unaware of the alleged sabotage. 10 seconds. 9-8. Naruto grabbed Leon, pulling her behind the sturdiest equipment he could find, using his body as additional shield. Sasuke remained where he stood, apparently unconcerned about the impending activation. 3, 2, 1. The world went white. Energy erupted from the crystal in a focused beam that shot skyward before arcing toward the distant capital. For a moment, nothing else happened. Then the night split apart. Even at this distance, the dimensional tear was visible as a rupture in reality itself, a jagged wound in the fabric of existence hanging above the Imperial Palace. Lightning-like energy cascaded from the tear, striking the palace's western wing with devastating precision. Chaos erupted among the Imperial forces as they realized something had gone catastrophically wrong. Dr. Stylish screamed accusations of sabotage, his carefully styled hair standing on end from the massive energy discharge. The coordinates! He shrieked. rushing to the control panel. They've been altered. The target is. His face drained of color as he realized the implications. The Prime Minister's chambers. We've just attacked our own leadership. In the confusion, Naruto noticed Sasuke slipping away from the perimeter, melting into the forest shadows with characteristic stealth. Should we go after him? Leon asked, following Naruto's gaze. No. Naruto's attention shifted to the dimensional device, which continued to pulse with unstable energy. This isn't over. That tear looks unstable. As if confirming his assessment, the rift above the distant capital began to widen, its edges fluctuating wildly. Even the scientists had abandoned their posts now, fleeing into the night as the apparatus began to vibrate with increasing intensity. It's going to blow, Leon realized, already backing away. The whole thing's destabilizing. Naruto grabbed her arm, pulling her into a full retreat. We need to warn the others. Night Raid, the Revolutionary Army. Everyone needs to prepare. For what? Leon demanded as they raced back toward the forest. Naruto looked over his shoulder at the expanding rift that now dominated the night sky. For whatever comes through that tear. The dimensional device exploded behind them, the shockwave flattening trees for 100 meters in all directions. But the damage was already done. Above the capital, the rift remained, a doorway between worlds that had been forced open but not controlled. As they disappeared into the forest, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that Sasuke's sabotage had been calculated to achieve exactly this outcome. Whatever his former friend's true agenda, one thing was certain. The war for the Empire had just entered an entirely new phase, with both worlds hanging in the balance.